Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Casual Criminalist. You might notice that I'm in a different studio today, and that's because we're trying something a little bit new. Joined today by what I hope will become a semi-regular co-host, my dear sister. Charlotte, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
I feel like that intro was the most BBC thing ever. Welcome. And then they're like, pleasure to be here. How's it going? You doing well?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So the idea here is, I'm not a big one for introductions because I think as the show goes on, people will get to know you. It's more fun that way. It leaves some mystery there. And also, no one knows you yet. So no one, really cares. It's just the internet. It is how it is.
I like your honesty.
No one cares about me, and it's been 10 years of me doing this. But people will get to know you. It'll be fine. Reason you're here today, other than the fact you're my sister, I can't remember where I had this brainwave, but I think I was driving home from work, and I'd had a call with someone. I had a call with this guy I work with, and he's like, have you ever thought about a co-host for Casual Criminalist? And I was like, no, not really. That kind of sounds like a hassle. And then I was just driving home and I'm like, it'd be great, a female co-host, because true crime and everything, I must be the only podcast out there where it's just a dude. And then I was like, and what if we had some sort of psychologist? And then I'm like, who do I know who is a woman and a psychologist? And it's you!
Bingo!
We are going to do the show as normal. I'm going to read some of the script that Matt Grander has written for us. Thank you, Matt. You're going to read the other bits. Oh, I had such a gaffe. I prepared these scripts for us, and I'm highlighting your bits in blue and my bits in black. And then I printed out on my black and white laser printer and realized that's completely useless. So I've just drawn lines on everything. We're talking about Dennis Nilsen, the British Jeffrey Dahmer. Are you ready for an excitingly grim one to start off?
Gosh, it's heavy.
It is. You've read this before, right? We thought that would be fun if you had a look at it beforehand, and I still go into it cold.
Yeah. I had to have a few breaks because I was like, oh gosh, this is heavy.
I was saying to you before we started recording, sometimes everyone always sees it pieced together, and maybe sometimes I'll be wearing a different shirt or a different jacket, and that's usually because I went home. It's I just can't. I just need a little break. I need to go home and have a beer and then come back to this the next day where I've recharged my misery batteries. 1978 to 1991, Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee cannibal, caused panic all throughout Milwaukee, Wisconsin, leaving 17 victims in his wake. He targeted exclusively men, ones he could lure back to his apartment for sex, before killing them, dissolving their bodies, bleaching their bones, and at times devouring the remaining flesh. Brilliant start. We've done Jeffrey Dahmer, and it's grim. I think it was Jeffrey Dahmer who kept the heads of his victims in the fridge and stuff, so he could sexually assault them later, and it's just Jesus Christ, Jeffrey Dahmer. Eventually he was caught, and then he died behind bars. And this is something we say regularly on this show. Oh no! But not before leaving behind a legacy of blood and of misery. To this day, he's considered to be one of the most infamous serial killers in United States history. So, how about we talk about his United Kingdom counterpart? Like Dahmer, he was lonely, and like Dahmer, he craved love and companionship from the men he seduced in bars or lured off the streets with promises of sex and or drink. This was a Scotsman who had killed at least a dozen men and boys, all because he didn't want them to leave him. I'm not sure I follow the logic there, mate. It's don't leave me, unless it's permanent. What are you thinking? By the way, often in these episodes, I have these things where I'm oh no, I'm trying to get my head around why this is happening. And then you realize I'm trying to get my head around someone who just isn't thinking right. And it's why would he think this? And it's don't forget, he's very broken. Yeah. He's a very broken person.
But I get what you're saying, and sometimes there is no logical reason. But I think in this case, as you read on, or as we read on, it does make a little bit more sense. There's somewhat sense behind it.
There's 2 episodes which I've been oh, I get it. I understand why you're a sick f***. And it's like, I think both of the episodes, as a kid, they were just like chill, normal, having a good ass time. And then I think both of them fell off a swing and got hit by the swing in the head afterwards, and then just became like, oh no, I need to devour the flesh of my fellow man. And it's like, holy shit. So I was like, okay, I get it. Yeah, something's wrong with your brain. There we go. Like physically something happened. Anyway, as the darkness engulfs us once again, let's jump over the ponds. Well, Matt will. I mean, actually, none of us are in the UK. You and I, of course, are both British. Matt's American, but you live in the Middle East.
Okay.
I live in Prague. We've all abandoned our roots.
I know.
You get used to it. As the darkness engulfs us, let's jump over the ponds and talk about one of England's worst and most depraved monsters. This is the twisted story of Dennis Nilsen, the kindly killer. Oh gosh. Sorry, you're about to take your section. Can I just ask before we get into it, before you read this, had you heard of him?
No. Had you?
Never heard of him.
No.
If someone said Nielsen, I'd think about like those TV ratings that they used to do back in the day, you know, like the Nielsen ratings, which will tell you how popular TV shows are. I guess it's a different thing.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't think you'd want to name something after this man.
No, or on the side, he started Nielsen ratings. Don't sue me, Nielsen. That is a joke. That didn't happen. Take your section. Go on.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning. Olav Magnus Mokshin, I'm going to go with, later known as Olav Nilsen, was a Norwegian and served in the Norwegian military. Of course, at the time, World War II was in full swing, and before long, Germany invaded and occupied all of Norway, leading to many of their citizens and a large chunk of their military fleeing and seeking refuge elsewhere. So Olav was no different, and he fled to Scotland to avoid being captured by the Nazis. It was there that he met Elizabeth Duthie White, the daughter of a local fisherman. It didn't take long for love to bloom, and after a brief courtship, the two of them were married in May of 1942, after which they moved into her parents' house. Together they had 3 children, a son named Olav Jr., a daughter named Sylvia, and then right in the middle was Dennis Andrew Nilsen, born November 23rd, 1945, in Fraserburgh, Aberdeenshire in Scotland. But Olav apparently never wanted to start a family, and he ended up divorcing Elizabeth in 1948. Not that Elizabeth was too heartbroken about it either. Olav was clearly never too interested in the idea of marriage to begin with, since he was never home and his attention was primarily focused on ending the German occupation of his home country and his involvement with the Free Norwegian Forces.
I was just going to say, this dude's like, nah, I don't really fancy a family. Bro, you just had kids.
That's 3.
It's
3
like, why are you
of
doing
them.
this afterwards? Like, it's like, nah, I never wanted kids. His wife must be saying, what the fuck, Olav? You piece of shit.
I know, it is a bit confusing because they're like, oh, they fell in love, but then he didn't want kids, and also apparently she's not that bothered when he wanted a divorce. It's not a very happy.
Whenever I read stuff like this, I'm like, oh, it's the past. But I'm like, were we really that different? And like, that's immediately what I'm thinking. I'm like, yeah, but there's not really any logic there still. It's not like they didn't have logic in the past. But I feel like they were just more like, oh yeah, my kid died of typhus. Meh. You know, like shit just goes wrong.
It is what it is.
Exactly.
But I think there was more pressure, wasn't there, that like everyone gets married and everyone has kids. Like that's what you do. So I think maybe people like fell into that trap more.
But then also there was like, don't get divorced. Divorced is bad and you will go to hell. Now everyone gets married later. Divorce is chill. Times have changed.
Indeed. So all 3 of their kids had been conceived during the father's brief visits to the mother's household.
They're 3? I totally... Oh, they did. He was the middle one. No, I don't want kids. Bro.
And he barely gave a damn about them after that. It got to the point where towards the end of the relationship, Elizabeth was regretting her decision to marry him, thinking that she rushed too quickly into it and now her children were paying for it. With Olav out the picture, Dennis lacked a father figure, a paternal role model, which again is another like theme that comes up a lot in this podcast, isn't it?
What? The people who end up doing horrible things have horrible childhoods? Yes, you could say it's a theme.
No, I meant more specifically the lack of a role model or parental figure, and then also kind of his grandpa Andrew, his mother's father, kind of stepped up to try and kind of fill that hole. So I'm sure you can probably
Yes.
predict what's coming later. You see, Elizabeth's parents had never fully been in favour of her relationship with Olav, and as soon as she divorced him, they were fully supportive of her and did all they could to help look after the children. With the whole family now living together in the town of Stricken?
Stricken, I would say.
Go with Stricken?
Yeah, go with Stricken.
Okay. This perhaps was the happiest Nilsen was in his whole life. He was a rather quiet boy, but was also very active and adventurous and enjoyed going on long nature walks with his grandpa through the woods or across the beach. Sounds idyllic, right?
Okay, sounds like stuff's working out for him. Wait, am I like, oh, this sounds so nice, everything's going so great, look, he's found his feet, his family have sorted themselves out, and then it's going to be like, yeah, and then he got abused by his teacher or his grandpa or something horrible.
Not the granddad. No, granddad's nice.
Okay, good.
And no teachers, to be fair.
At least
no,
not that.
no teachers are implicated in this.
Wait, is he Catholic? Is he in the Boy Scouts?
No mention of Boy Scouts.
Okay. Well, go on, ruin my day. What happened to him?
Okay, it said that every parent in one way or another has a favourite child, the child that they dote on, spoil, and are especially lenient with. With Nilsen, though, it was the opposite. While Elizabeth was warm and cuddly and nurturing to Olav Jr. and Sylvia, she was said to be downright cold to Dennis, seemingly almost repulsed by him, and for no real reason at all.
I think she can sense that he's a psycho. I think she just gets those vibes from him. She's like, did you get hit on the head with a swing or something? Like, a bit like every parent has a favorite child. I'm like, I don't know. I really like both my kids. They're both so nice. They're different.
Yeah.
And you'll never hear me say anything different publicly.
Yeah, exactly. This is on the record. Gotta be careful what we say.
Yeah. When my kids, who by the way, I call Romulus and Remus for their privacy, when they're like 20 in their 20s and they decide that they're going to go back and, find something and embarrass me with it, they'll be like, Dad, who's your favorite?
I remember this episode of Auntie Charlotte.
God.
But it is interesting because, it goes on to say she didn't even have any photos of him in the house. And from a young age, he felt unwanted, repulsive, unnatural, and abnormal. And it's hard to know, isn't it? Like, what's the chicken and egg? So like you said, did she sense something was different about him? Or was it that she felt that way towards him and he then internalized that and then kind of started to feel that way about himself?
I'm completely speculating. I would guess it's like a little bit of both, like a vicious cycle, right? She's does one thing and then he reacts weirdly to it. She reacts weirdly to that. And then the next thing you know, he's eating someone's flesh.
Just like that. Natural.
Just like that. Yeah. It's the obvious and natural progression here.
But it is interesting because I guess as we're growing up, the way we see ourselves and our self-esteem is formed based upon our interactions with the people most important to us and our caregivers. So how they treat us, the care that we receive or don't receive really shapes how we see ourselves. So it is really interesting, even if we don't 100% know the direction, but there's that mirroring between how she saw him and how he kind of sees himself.
Yeah, it's not, it doesn't seem good. It doesn't seem good. I feel like if you're the mother there, you should be like, even though I don't like him, let's pretend to like him and put some pictures up.
Yeah, this is strong.
Come on.
Saying words repulsive as well and not having any pictures up. Yeah, she's not even trying to hide it.
No, she's like, I am repulsed by you, you disgusting animal. And it's
it's strong.
Brilliant.
So, it would also explain why he got to be so close with his grandfather, Andrew, who he called his great hero and protector. But he also started developing a fast-growing obsession with inanimate things, people even, that weren't alive. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, God. That sounds dark. Anyway, Brian Masters is a British author, one whose claim to fame comes in the form of his biographical works on serial killers. These include The Shrine of Jeffrey Dahmer in 1993, She Must Have Known, The Trial of Rosemary West in 1996, and of course, before either of these, Killing for Company, The Case of Dennis Nilsen in 1985. In regards to Nilsen's fixation, he had this to say, quoting, "He was isolated from an early age, and the isolation found solace in representation of people who weren't alive, like pictures in a storybook. He'd cut out the picture and take it home. That's what he liked, because that picture couldn't argue with him. it couldn't say no to him. Bruh, that's weird. He's got a parasocial relationship with, like, photos.
Yeah, it's like very literal. Like saying he likes the pictures and he'd cut the picture out. Yeah, anyway, I won't say any more. We'll wait and we'll hear more.
If one of my kids came back from school and with like a cutout photo of like some person from a magazine, it was like, yeah, I prefer talking to this, Dad. I'd be like, why? Because he doesn't talk back. We're like, uh-oh, you need to see somebody.
Yeah, that's a red flag.
Yeah. Nilsen would later attempt to put his life down on audio tapes, like an autobiography of sort, and he recounted his memories of his childhood and how he saw himself. Quoting him, "I was an inwardly troubled boy and nobody seemed to notice. I remember as if there was a moviola running in my mind. Got no idea what a moviola is.
I was hoping you did."
I see a small, frail boy. He is new against a background of powerful forces acting on him. I had a feeling of being somehow different. Perhaps being poor, thin, and shabbily dressed was the first definable assault on my awakening self-esteem. Not having a father to boast about might well have been another. All right, the quote ends. Even as he got older, though, Grandpa Andrew was still working as a fisherman, and so he had to get in his boat and go out to sea to catch his bounty to make money for the family. And every single time Grandpa Andrew took to the sea, like clockwork, there would be Dennis waiting for him on the dock, feeling like life would be empty for me until he returns. Well, unfortunately, as we all know, nature has to take its course, and grandparents don't just live forever, no matter how much we wish they would. Yeah, This is going to be bad for his mental health, isn't it? This is another thing you see, like, these broken people in these episodes, and then there's, like, something that happens, and it's like, oh, you just got broken a lot more by this, and now you need to eat people. So, yeah, it's the natural progression of things. In 1951, Grandpa Andrew had been dealing with several health issues, but his love for his grandson never wavered, and neither did his ventures out to the great blue of the North Sea. Then on October the 31st, Grandpa Andrew bid young Dennis farewell from the dock, as he always did, and promised to go on a walk with him once he returned home. Unfortunately, he didn't return home. Not alive, anyway. For on that day, while out on his boat, Andrew White had a severe heart attack and passed away at sea at 62 years old. He's only 62.
Oh, no.
They're like counting down to his death. And it's like, wait, then I'd only have like 24 more years of life.
Oh God, don't think about it like that.
Yeah, both of our parents would be dead, like, by many years. I guess it is the past, but it's not that long in the past.
No.
I guess he had a hard life as a fisherman. Soon enough, Grandpa Andrew and his boat were brought back to shore, and his body was handed over to his family. And pray tell, what did Elizabeth do when the 6-year-old Dennis came asking where Grandpa was? She skirted around the issue, trying to hide it from him as best she could, saying that Granddad wasn't feeling that well and he'd be home shortly. I understand why this is a difficult conversation to have with your kid.
Yeah.
I do. But you gotta, like, you're a parent now. You have to have these difficult times. You gotta be like, all right, listen.
Yeah, I think this did not do him any favors.
No, it just, like, I don't know why. Maybe you do, but you can't just lie about this kind of stuff. It's like a betrayal of trust or something, right? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And then it just gets confusing for them. Like, I can understand, like, buying yourself a bit of time to try and think about how to say it, but
sure, 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes. But yeah, no, this is it's not nice. It's so much for a child to get their head round. But yeah, they need to know the truth, and then you need to help them, process it.
Well, I have good news. Matt's on exactly the same page as us, because he says, lying, because that's the healthy thing to do. I'm assuming sarcasm, or Matt has his own problems. And when the funeral rolled around, it was an open casket, and she asked little Dennis if he'd like to see his grandpa. How do you feel? Like, Americans have open caskets, and the majority of our audience are Americans. They have these open casket funerals. Like, I watched that TV show 6 Feet Under, and that whole TV show is about the dude taking dead bodies, and it's like, oh yeah, well, half his face is missing from a car crash. Let's just, like, plaster some stuff on there so that people can look at his body as it was. And I'm like, wait, That's what photos are for. Why do you have to look at your dead family's body? It's weird. And I've said this before, and people are like, oh, it's a nice thing to do. It's a way to say goodbye. And I'm like, all right, you do you. I don't know. I don't like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think there's so much variation. I think it really depends upon like the circumstances in which someone died. So like, did people know it was coming? So did they have a chance to say goodbye? Or if they didn't have a chance to say goodbye, I can understand why people would want to go and see them, so they feel like they can say goodbye. But I think as well,
Yes.
Yeah. But I think that's why they put so much effort into them looking as much as possible as they did before and kind of looking presentable.
It'd be really bad if they were like, oh no, the guy who makes the corpses look pretty was out, so old Peter here, he's just missing half his face. We're really sorry. If you look at it at the right angle, just don't go give him a kiss on the forehead because he doesn't have a forehead anymore. Sorry.
Poor Peter and his family.
I've been told that this is how I deal with horrible People are like, why does Simon make jokes sometimes at these moments? Apparently it's a way of like dealing with uncomfortable situations, which I think is probably true. Either that or I'm a terrible person.
But you're definitely not a terrible person.
Well, thank you so much. So the funeral rolls around. It's an open casket. And he's like, do you want to see your grandpa? And he's like, yes, I'd like to see my dead grandpa's body, please. I love dead bodies. Which is, I said sarcastically, but I totally realize he does love dead bodies now. Which is so fucking weird. Elizabeth still didn't explain to him what was going on. What?
So
She's just like, he could get up at any moment.
Oh, God. Poor
What the
boy.
fuck, Elizabeth?
Confusing.
Jesus. And that he was just sleeping and that he was in a better place. What? Dream world? And then what was when they like closed the top and put him in the ground? Old little Dennis is like, well, how's he going to get out?
Oh,
Like-
no. It's so much more traumatic.
Yes. This seems insane. And seeing as Dennis had already started to develop an obsession with inanimate objects, as mentioned previously, including dead things, including dead people, this turned out to be a massive mistake. Had Elizabeth simply been honest with her son, perhaps his mind wouldn't have gone to the places it did. Had Elizabeth just treated him like his siblings with the tender love and care a mother should, perhaps things could have been different. But she didn't. And after his grandfather's death, Dennis's mind began the slow, agonizing spiral into darkness. Everyone in his life was abandoning him. No one cared about him. No one loved him. Even those who were meant to. The only things that didn't hurt or disappoint him were either inanimate or dead. This is so sad. And now, the one person whom he treasured, the one person who truly loved him, was dead now too. To quote Brian Masters, I'm utterly convinced that his idea of death and his idea of love were fused at that point. And after that, he could only love people who were dead. Wow. I don't know what that said. Like, his psychology there, that's got to be pretty bizarre. Is that a condition? Is that something people have?
I guess it's not necessarily linked with like a specific condition or diagnosis, but I guess it kind of makes sense. Obviously, not that this would happen for everyone, but in these circumstances, like as Brian Masters was saying, like for him, the person that he loved the most and that hugely like protective factor that came along in his life is then lost and dies. So you can see how then there would be that connection for him between kind of love and death and loss. But it's definitely not just that. There's clearly a lot else going on for Dennis that results in all that we're about to hear.
Right. Because I feel like people lose people they love all the time. And then they don't end up being like, yeah, and I've got a thing for death. They're just like, oh, death kind of sucks. I feel is more like the normal reaction to that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think this is probably a factor in it, but yeah, it's obviously not the only thing that has led to this for him, and it's not straightforward.
Right. From that moment on, Dennis Nilsen was a changed boy. The light, what little there was, had officially gone out of his life, and there was really no reason to be happy from then on. He grew withdrawn, quiet, even more so than before, and he did all he could not to participate in any family activities, or what affection he felt towards his mother and grandmother turned to apathy and hatred, and he shoved away any attempts made at showing him honest affection. Nilsen seemed to realize just how terrible he'd been treated, with all the love and care he'd needed being heaped onto his siblings, so he decided to stop trying. Honestly, fair play, mate. Like, it sounds like your mother was kind of a piece of shit to you. So, yeah, you got less of a responsibility to reciprocate that as a kid. And I think it's about time. Anyway, but something else happened around that time. Dennis Nilsen almost died. After his grandfather passed away, Nilsen still enjoyed walking along the beaches and sitting at nearby ports, watching boats taking to the sea. Around either 1954 or 55, he lost his footing while out on one of those walks and fell into the cold, salty embrace of the ocean. He struggled at first, overcome with fear as everyone would be, but he seemed unable to find the surface. Then, as the last of his air left him, he felt, as he described it later, an overwhelming sense of calm and serenity at the certainty of death as it washed over him. It felt good. And he believed at that moment that Grandpa Andrew was coming to get him, to take him away from all the hurt in his life. So he let himself go. Now, I'm sure there's another timeline or universe out there where that's the end of that and barely anyone will remember the name Dennis Nilsen. But that's not the world we live in. Sadly, several other youths on the beach saw Nilsen fall into the... Sadly, they saw this kid fall in. Where really it should be that any other person, fortunately... and rushed to pull him out, grabbing him by the shirt and dragging him back to the pier, saving his life. And so, Nilsen survived, and he continued to be distant from his family. Then his mother remarried, and Nilsen grew up to despise his stepfather. He had a father figure, someone he loved, and he was dead, and he had no interest in living one. However, when he entered puberty, he came to a shocking and scary realization about himself. Dun dun dun! He realized that he was gay. Which I guess wouldn't be like, in today's world, you'd be like, okay, cool. It's like, yeah, okay. But in the 1950s, a little bit of a different time.
Yeah. And it goes on to say a bit more about that in a minute. When I was about 8 or 9, I was first afflicted by that thing called love. I think it's really interesting he uses the word afflicted. It was for another boy with whom I'd never even spoken. Visions of him, as seen in school, filled my whole consciousness. It was a strange, vibrant and compelling situation, but the stern moral principles of society and the church were of such a magnitude that my inner joys and longings had to be kept secret from the world. So those are the words of Dennis Nilsen, all from his audio tape biography, and they resonate a feeling. So coming to terms with one's sexuality and sexual preferences can be a difficult and scary thing, especially if your environment is hostile and bigoted to the idea of it. So even today, in a much more tolerant world, it can still be hard to deal with. Now, does that excuse what he'd end up doing as the years rolled on? Absolutely not.
Yeah. It's like, dude, there's plenty of people who have shitty childhoods and then realize they're gay in adolescence and don't go on to eat people. It's not an excuse.
No. As Nilsen himself stated, his environment wasn't exactly filled with love and understanding with regards to homosexuality. So, as you were saying, back in the 50s and 60s, it was actually still a crime in the UK to be gay.
Of course it was. Yeah. It wasn't just like, no, that's not cool. Like, God says no. It was like, that's a crime.
Yeah. So, warranting jail time if arrested and found guilty of. And the community he lived in was very conservative and very religious, including his family. So they all demonized gay people, calling them sinful and unnatural, abominations against God. So not quite the place you want to be if you're a young man with, I like the way he's put this, burgeoning thoughts about the fine lads. And so to say he was confused and conflicted would be an understatement.
It's a nice turn of phrase.
He didn't want to be a pariah within his community, or at worst to be seen as a criminal and a monster before being carted off to jail. So Nilsen tried to repress these emotions and feelings, which is never a good thing. These things always come bubbling back up to the surface, and sometimes in the most unwanted ways. You see, Nilsen did all he could to hide his shame and his desires from those he cared about. But in doing so, he grew more and more confused. He wanted to change, he wanted to be normal, and he wanted to normalize these thoughts and feelings to himself. And one way he did this was to justify them by making a rather unsettling connection. The fact that all the boys he was experiencing affection and lust for were all very pretty, and they all seemed to have similar facial features to Sylvia, his little sister.
Dude.
I know.
Wait, what? He's like, you know what's better than being gay? incest. That was his logical path. What is going on with you, dude?
I know. I feel like this really comes back to what you were saying earlier about like when we're trying to find logic where there really is no logic and there's no understanding, there's no explaining.
He's like, you know what? I don't love men. That would be ridiculous. I just love my sister. Dude.
Yeah.
Okay, dude. I don't know. That's really unusual.
I know. And I try and always understand things, but like, this and this next part I just find really hard to understand.
Oh God.
So because of this, for a time, he linked his sexual urges with his brotherly affection for his sister. And he figured that there was only one natural way to deal with that.
No. These are different things, my dude. Yeah. These are different kinds of love.
Yeah. This guy gets really
Don't be getting that confused.
I know. And what was that exactly? Well, sexually abusing her in her bed as she slept. Of course. You can't make this up. No, you really can't.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brace yourself.
Okay.
It gets worse.
I'm braced. Oh, good. Yeah, okay. Well, I know it does, but it's like, Jesus Christ.
I know. You see, Nilsen had a very big affinity for fondling and groping, as Matt would say. He admitted at one point that he'd been fondled, in Matt's words, by a younger boy at one time, most likely by accident.
Is fondling not an appropriate term anymore? Are we not supposed to use fondling? You said that like...
I don't know. I just don't like it. But
it feels kind of scientific to me.
I guess the thing is...
Does it not to you?
Well, I was just thinking that as I was saying I don't like it, I was like, well, what word are you going to like? Because there's not going to be a nice
inappropriate
word to
touching,
describe.
I think, would be what they'd use in a corporate environment. But fondling kind of just, it feels quite clinical to me. But obviously you're the expert and you say no. So let's not use fondling.
It just gives me that ooh feeling. But the whole thing gives you that ooh feeling. I don't think it cannot give you that feeling. So
gives you the ick, as they say.
It definitely gives me a big fat ick. So yeah, I'm going to think about a different word to use. And so he repeatedly did this to his sister, with her being unaware of the whole thing. At some point though, it seems he stopped trying to fool himself and he accepted that he did fancy boys over girls, perhaps being bisexual at worst. How do we know this? Because he started fondling his older brother, Olaf Jr., in his sleep as well.
I was like, oh, okay, so he's accepted he's gay. It's a difficult time in society to accept that. So he's like, oh, I'll fondle my older brother. That makes Again, trying to work out someone's minds is like, who's like this is just, I don't get it.
No, I know. I feel like this is such a story of highs and lows. Like you get this moment where you're like, oh, okay, this is great. This is a good thing. And then like the second later, you're like, nope, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's taken away.
Okay, he's still going to need many, many years of therapy. But at least this. And then it's like, oh, no, now he just needs decades of therapy or probably prison.
Definitely the latter or both.
Oh, God. How old is he at this point? He's a teenager, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think about 14, 15.
Anyway, go on then. Gonna guess it gets worse.
Okay, so it says he wasn't so lucky on that front as he was eventually caught by his brother, who woke up to his baby brother feeling him up in bed. I feel like feeling him up I don't love, but it's better than fondling.
No. Completely disagree. Feeling him up feels like very like 90s. Like, I don't know, but when I hear that, I think of that movie Freddy Got Fingered, and I'm like, it feels crass.
Okay.
It feels crass somehow. Whatever.
Okay. We'll see. So Olaf Jr. pushed him away, and from then on, their relationship was never the same, understandably. So Olaf Jr. suspected that his brother was gay.
Like at breakfast the next day, like, what up, dude?
Oh, just him. Oh no, Sylvia didn't know I was going to.
How do you like your Cocoa Pops?
Pass me the milk.
It's so uncomfortable. Oh my God. Okay.
So yeah, he never let him forget it, publicly ridiculing him and referring to him as a hen, which is a Scottish slang term for a girl.
Oh, there you go. So, what did Nilsen do to escape from the deafening whispers and judging eyes? Bro, those eyes are judging for a reason, my dude.
Yeah.
He joined the army. What else? When Nilsen was 16, he signed up for a 9-year stint in the military, beginning his training in September 1961 and reporting to the Army Catering Corps at St. Omar Barracks in Aldershot, Hampshire, to begin a 3-year journey to become a military cook. 9 years? Sorry, I have this tendency, as you will discover, to find a way to ramble on every fucking sentence. I apologize to you, I apologize to the audience, but isn't 9 years a long stint to like sign up to the military? Because then you can't quit. That's like desertion. They'll put you in prison.
Oh,
Anyway,
really?
that
If you
seems
want to leave
intense to-
early?
Yeah, you can't leave the army. That's the whole thing. You sign up for a certain amount, because otherwise everyone would join and they'd be like, yeah, okay, so I have to go learn how to shoot a gun and I get paid. And then it's like, yeah, okay, we're at war with Iraq. And then it's like, nah, quit.
Yeah.
You can't-
Tapping out. Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, you can't do that. I mean, you could be like, I'm not going to fight, but then they'll put you in like military prison for like the duration of your stint or whatever. And then you get dishonorably discharged, which is a big thing. Did you know that? Like, I thought dishonorable discharge was like, oh, you just weren't very good in the military. So we're not like, we're not giving you a job reference. Apparently it's really bad. Like if you get dishonorably discharged, it's like you did some shit and then it's hard to get a job and stuff like that.
Oh,
so,
really? Oh,
anyway.
God. Okay.
Apparently. Described by Nilsen himself as being the happiest of my life, the 3 years of training were a relief to him. All he did was cook and butcher meat. He even got to be part of a ceremonial parade attended by both Queen and Field Marshal Lord Montgomery of Alamein. It was as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Not entirely, though, as he did all he could to hide his sexuality from his fellow cadets. This was probably a point of, I don't know what the British equivalent of this is, but like the don't ask, don't tell. And then it was like no gays in the military. Then it was don't ask, don't tell. Is it still don't ask, don't tell? Or maybe it's probably chill now.
I'd really hope.
I mean, given that homosexuality was probably still illegal at this point, gonna guess military's not really chill with that. So he's got to hide it. It got to the point where he refused to shower publicly with them like everyone else, preferring to shower alone for fear of popping a stiffy at the sight of his naked companions. Oh my God, this would be like, oh, I don't even know. This would be like the most embarrassing thing you could possibly imagine, other than, touching up your brother.
He's got no shame left anymore. He's fine.
No.
It can't be worse than that.
Yeah. In mid-1964, after passing his catering exam, he was made a fully fledged member of the military. His first deployment, the 1st Battalion of the Royal Fusiliers in Osnabrück in West Germany. Now a private, his duties were pretty much the same, cooking for his fellow troops, as well as butchering the meat. However, something he had access to was now alcohol, and he took full advantage of it. Describing himself and his colleagues as hard-working, boozy lot, he drank copious amounts of alcohol on a regular basis, mostly to help overcome his shyness and unwillingness to socialize. Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah. I feel like alcohol, obviously, helps people socialize, but just don't overdo it. You'll be fine.
And this is a man who does not need alcohol. He does not need anything else complicating his mental faculties.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Good point. Now, I certainly can understand that, since it's one of the many perks of the old firewater. Your normal inhibitions go right out the window. It was because of the heavy drinking, however, that he made another rather dark discovery about himself. Oh my lord. What's he going to discover? You see, one night while drinking, he met a young German man who was also quite wasted. They ended up enjoying each other's company, drinking even more heavily as the hours rolled by. Eventually, they wound up back at the young man's flat, and Nilsen passed out, waking up the next morning, sprawled out on the floor, fully clothed, while the young man snoozed away in bed. Nothing sexual happened, and Nilsen ended up leaving his host alone, but he quickly realized something from this encounter. Oh, what's he... I don't know. I can't even begin to... I mean, it's obviously going to be something weird and sexual, but other than realizing that, oh no, he is gay, which he already knows, what's he going to discover? His sexual fantasies had intensified. Now, he not only wanted men, handsome, young and slender ones at that, but he now wanted them passive, easy to manipulate. More specifically, his fantasies turned to ones of men he fancied being unconscious or dead. I guess I should have seen that coming, given we know where this episode is going, but I didn't realize it would just be like, oh no. Well, he went round to this dude's house, they got drunk, and then he realized that he liked fucking dead people.
Boom.
It's like, all right. Okay. He even tried to manipulate those around him to do the same. He and his friends would be out drinking, and he'd pretend to be so intoxicated that he'd fake losing consciousness, hoping desperately that his comrades would take advantage of him while he was mock vulnerable. In 1967, Nilsen was transferred to the state of Aden, which used to be a British colony in what is today South Yemen, and at the time was governed by the Federation of South Arabia. There, Nilsen was assigned to Al Mansoura prison, where he continued to work as a cook. This location was far more dangerous than the last, since violent guerrilla attacks from Arabian nationalists led to abductions or ambush murders of several of Nilsen's companions. Nilsen himself was even kidnapped one night by an Arab taxi driver. Walking home one night, he was ambushed, beaten so severely he was knocked out, and thrown in the trunk of a car. He's probably like, finally, I'm going to get taken advantage of. Yes! On the way, though, he woke up, and as soon as his captor opened the trunk, Nilsen knocked him down and, grabbing a jack handle, beat the man until he passed out, throwing him in the trunk and leaving him there before escaping back to base. Honestly, first base thing he's done this episode. He's like, he got kidnapped, and he turns the tables completely on the kidnapper and leaves them in the trunk of the car. I'm kind of like, I know I'm not, doesn't forgive anything, but that's kind of badass. Got to give it to him for that.
But it's also crazy.
Why?
Because this is the second time that he could have died and it doesn't happen. Remember, he fell in the water and he was rescued. Then this, he could have died. And again, he managed to kind of fight back. And it's gosh, the story could have...
Oh, because they were killing the other guys, weren't they? They were kidnapping and killing them. This wasn't for money. Oh, right. He could have died. He probably was going to die.
I assume so.
No, that's fair. I was kind of thinking it would just be kidnapped for money or whatever. But then it's like, oh no, they were murdering his compatriots. Matt just told us that. So, yeah. Okay. Holy well, that's a shame. It's a shame he didn't get murdered. It wasn't all bad in Aden for Nilsen, though. One of the big perks for him was the fact that he got a room all to himself, so this left him plenty of time alone to have fun and fantasize. Oof. Especially when he got himself a freestanding mirror to imagine himself having sex with another man. Using the mirror, he managed to fulfill two of his fantasies at the same time, being the domineering partner, as well as the prone and helpless passive. Bro, what are you up to in your bedroom?
Oh, God.
This sounds very weird. I'm trying to work out, and I don't want to work it out in my mind, the logistics of this. So I'm just going to move on from his mirror activities. We're done. That's fine. No, I'm not even going to try. In the words of Nilsen himself, when I was with people, I was in the real world. And in my private life, I snapped instantly into my fantasy life. I could oscillate between the two with instant ease. It was around this time that he discovered the 19th century oil painting entitled The Raft of Medusa. All right then. Painted in either 1818 or 1819 by famed painter Theodore Jericho. This is one of those things where people are going to be like, Simon has no culture, because it's Jericho or something, because he's French. And I'll just be like, I know I don't have any culture. I did a whole episode about Leonardo da Vinci, pronouncing it Leonardo da Vinci. And people were like, Simon doesn't know how to pronounce Leonardo da Vinci. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's Da Vinci. I've been saying it my whole life, Da Vinci. Turns out it is not. It depicts a moment from the aftermath of the wreck of the French naval frigate Méduse, which ran aground off the coast of Mauritania on July the 2nd, 1816. Again, where is this going? What's okay? However, what caught Nilsen's eye was the bottom left quarter of the piece. It shows an old man clinging desperately to the limp and nude body of a dead young man, and beside him lies the dismembered body of yet another man. This part of the piece spoke to Nilsen, reinforcing a deep need within him, and added on to the fantasy he dreamt about for much of his life. The want, the need, the fantasy of practicing necrophilia. See, now that one I saw coming. Because by this point, after that drinking session in that dude's flat, it's like, I could see the path to this. I mean, I couldn't, I wouldn't, but I can see how his mind is so broken that he's like,
it went there.
Passive.
Ooh.
Yeah. Eventually, Nilsen returned to the UK, and what followed were numerous assignments to different bases. First, he was assigned to serve with the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders at Seaton Barracks in Plymouth, Devon, though his stint there was very brief before he was transferred to Cyprus? It's got to be Cyprus, right? It's got to be Cyprus.
I've never heard of someone called Cyrus.
Cyprus. And I guess it didn't get picked up by the corrector because it's a name, Cyrus. In 1969. From there, he and his units were sent to West Berlin, and he claims that he was able to reach a milestone. He had sexual relations with a woman. While in Germany, he claimed to have hired a prostitute and that he did the deed with her. Later, he'd brag about it to his friends like the classy dude he was. It's a very weird thing to brag about, but okay. But this one escapade reportedly only reinforced his preference for men. He found sex with women to be both overrated and depressing. Concluding once and for all that he was indeed gay. Then following a few more reassignments, including being selected to cook for the Queen's Royal Guard, Nilsen decided to retire from the military in October 1972 after serving for a total of 11 years. Sorry, just before you take your section, there's something that comes up often in these episodes. It's like someone who's troubled goes to the military and it either fixes them or it makes things much worse. This dude doesn't seem to be on the fixing side of things, sadly.
No. Although I'm not sure there's anything that really could have fixed poor Dennis.
No. Prison.
Yes.
It wouldn't fix him. It just put him away so he can't
Contain.
be a menace to society. Yeah.
Yeah. London calling. Not long after Nilsen left the army, life threw him another curveball. His family found out he was gay. So after leaving the military, Nilsen had initially moved back in with his family in Stricken. During that time, his mother voiced her concerns that he never seemed to bring any girls home or show any real interest in girls.
He's like, Mum, I've just got no game. I'm not gay, Mum.
Oh, God, this is another interesting phrase from Matt. She kept dogging him, saying he should find a nice girl and settle down and start a family of his own.
He's not going to get that reference because dogging means something very different in British English than it does American English. And if you want, dear audience, you can look up dogging British slang and you will discover something. In American, I believe it just means hassling.
Yes. But if you Google it, don't click on images. Just read the text
Yeah,
first.
don't click on images. Yep, you don't want those images.
No.
And no, it's not people sleeping with dogs.
No.
You sick fucks.
Basically, she was nagging him to settle down and give her some grandkids. But then one night, the whole family was sitting down for a movie, specifically a documentary on gay men, since the UK had decriminalised same-sex relationships in 1967. While the rest of the family proceeded to make fun of the gay people on screen, vilifying them even, Nilsen felt only sympathy, voicing his support for gay rights. This caused a fight to break out, and right in front of their mother, Olaf Jr. outed his brother as gay. From that point on, his...
So I'm just going to say, Mom, I'm not gay, I'm just woke, Mom. I'm woke and I've got no game, okay?
I don't think the word woke existed in the 1960s.
Whenever it was.
But also, it's interesting because Olaf Jr. outs him, so to speak, as gay. But when I was reading this, I was like, but does he say anything about the abuse?
Oh, yeah, they're like, wait, how do you know? Oh, he touched me up in bed when we were kids.
Quite conclusive proof.
His mum would be like, dude, what the man? I always thought you were a psycho, but... Wait, it was his mum. His mum doesn't like him, right? We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I said that with like, his mum doesn't like him, right? It's actually terribly sad.
It's
and
really
kind of fucked him up,
sad.
so, yeah.
Oh.
Sorry.
So he never spoke to his older brother again, and upon moving out, he only kept an occasional written correspondence with his mum, stepdad, and younger siblings. After this, Nilsen decided it was time to start up a new career path.
Okay, I don't know where this is going.
I just find it so funny. Guess
Wait,
what job he would go to.
I'm going to guess he's going to be some sort of like civilian cook, because that's he's been like a cook for 11 years. It's going to be something somewhere cooking stuff.
No.
I don't know. Like, obviously it's something real. It's something strange. I'm not looking at the script because obviously I could look ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tell me.
As a Metropolitan Police officer.
Oh, okay.
Interesting move.
I mean, he's definitely done some crimes.
Yeah.
So, okay, carry on.
That's right. Dennis Nilsen became a Bobby and moved to London to do so. I don't know if people outside of England will know what Bobby means, but basically, yeah, it means police officer.
Matt's American, so
okay,
maybe that
he
one has
knows.
crossed the
Okay.
pond enough.
Okay.
Yes.
By April of 1973, he'd already completed his training, and his first posting was in Willesden Green in northwest London. From all accounts, he seemed to enjoy the work, though he never did get too physical when arresting anyone. There's one thing he missed, though, and that was the camaraderie he'd experienced in the army wasn't present in the police force. In other words, he was lonely, as he always was. To compensate for these feelings of loneliness, he started frequenting local gay bars, drinking once more to excess, all by himself, while looking for some short-lived form of love or companionship. Throughout this year, he ended up in numerous short-lived, frivolous relationships, and Nilsen described each one as soul-crushing. He wanted something that would last, something he could hold on to, and yet nothing stuck. And he simply felt he was letting his sexual partners use him for his body and their satisfaction. No more, no less. He sought inner peace, yet found only further torment.
Well, it's really sad.
It is sad.
I know he's a monster, but that is sad.
Yeah, you actually kind of feel for him because, again, you feel like, could this have been a bit of like a turning point? Like he's actually wanting to have a stable relationship, wanting to have love and companionship, and it didn't happen for him.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's an extremely troubled individual, but maybe a lot of his troubles come down to the fact that he was just, so repressed and everything. And then he's like, okay, cool. Homosexuality is legal. My family know. This is my life now. And that's like some huge weight off his shoulders. But, I mean, obviously not.
Yeah. Well, it is sad. So soon he came to the conclusion that being a police officer was getting in the way of his romantic and alcoholic escapades.
I'm too busy working. I don't have enough time for drinking.
To drink and find a partner.
You know what? Screw this podcast. I'm just going to go get drunk. I mean, it is 11. This is way too much work.
I know, it's quite a privileged position to be in, isn't it? Of like, I'm going to stop working so I've got more time to find a partner and drink.
I assume he doesn't have money or something. This is going to be a problem.
Yeah. No, he does work. He does carry on working, just not in the police.
Okay.
So he quit the force entirely, got a job working as a civil servant at a job centre in Denmark Street.
Mm-hmm.
He was the quiet guy at work. The only thing his fellow workers knew about him was that he was involved with the trade union movement. He slacked off whenever he could, but he was apparently very good at his job and was eventually promoted to executive officer and transferred to another job centre in Kentish Town. It was during this time he would come across someone who would, at least for a time, give him what he desired. So in November 1975, Nilsen was leaving one of his local haunts after spending the night drinking his sorrows away. It was then that he noticed a man being harassed by two others. This was 20-year-old David Gallican, and he was seconds away from being beaten to a pulp. Nilsen decided to step in and de-escalate the situation and brought David back to his room. The two of them got talking and drinking, and David told Nilsen that he had just moved to town, that he was living in a hotel, and also that he was gay. Nilsen got to thinking, proposed that the two of them should move in together and become roommates at a new place. David agreed, and after several days of searching, they moved into a vacant and fully furnished ground floor flat at 195 Melrose Avenue. Nilsen had even negotiated with the landlord to allow David and himself exclusive use of the garden at the rear of the property.
Wait! That feels like foreshadowing for where he's going to bury some bodies. I don't know if that's what actually happens, but it's happened before. I feel like we're getting the answer. We're going to get the answer to our question. Because earlier I was like, he's going through all these relationships and he's not happy and it's just very sad for him and he can't find anything stable. And we were speculating, well, if he did find something stable, maybe he wouldn't end up being a psycho. Sorry, I know I shouldn't use that word. That's not the right word to use. What is the correct word to use here? Tell me, because people have a go at me when I say someone's a psycho unless they're in the process of removing someone's flesh.
It's so difficult because I guess psychopath is a kind of an acceptable term and diagnosis for a small set of people. I don't know that he would meet that criteria because often psychopaths struggle to feel kind of genuine empathy and kind of sadness. Although some can feel sadness. I was just thinking actually whether there is any evidence of empathy. I'm not sure if there is any evidence of empathy.
Does it cover the feelings for yourself or is it just for other people?
Mainly other people, because I think a lot of psychopaths, I think some can feel their own emotions. It's more that they can't recognize them in others.
Because I feel like he definitely has emotions himself.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
He can feel sad and he feels, these deep emotions.
Yeah.
But we don't really have much evidence that he thinks other people have emotions so far.
No.
Like that hasn't been mentioned at all throughout this script, other than hatred for other than hatred, which I think doesn't count, right? Psychopaths can hate people.
Yeah, because there's no awareness of the impact of his actions on others, or there's an awareness, but he doesn't care. Either way, we don't know.
He just doesn't seem to. It's just not mentioned. It's just like there's no mention of it. It's just not so like other people. You'd just be like, well, I thought this was sad for this person at some point in 8 pages of script. It's like, no, We haven't mentioned other people's feelings at all, which is like weird.
Yeah.
At first, things were going pretty well. They redesigned the interior of the flat together, and at first, Nilsen was fine being the breadwinner in the house, given the fact that David didn't want to work. Very nice. Okay. So, like most people, dude, but we have to. Every now and again, they'd scratch each other's itch. Nilsen finally seemed happy. He seemed to have what he always wanted, and it seemed like an amicable relationship. But of course, things quickly became strained as issues began to pile up. Oh, okay, so they're not really in a relationship.
No.
They're like roommates, friends with benefits.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, interesting. Not what I expected. First off, despite the occasional sexual relations, Nilsen and David didn't have an official relationship. It was far more casual, so much so that they each slept in their own bed. Perhaps Nilsen wanted more. Sorry, I'm just thinking of a conversation I had with my wife like a few days ago where it's getting hot and my wife likes sleeping with a much heavier blanket than I do. So I'll always get very hot and she'll be cold. I feel this is quite a natural like man and woman dynamic. Men just seem to run hotter in the night. And I'm like, no, I'd definitely sleep in a pod. She's like, what? It's like, yeah, I know. I'd build like an air-conditioned pod, like a soundproof pod. And she's like, but then we wouldn't be sleeping together. And I'm like, no, I'd be in my pod. And she's like, that's weird. And I'm like, yeah, I suppose that is weird. But I just like the idea of having that perfect night's sleep.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I love sleeping with my wife, but also I would definitely sleep better if I was in a pod. I think.
Temperature controlled. And I also think after you like have had very young children, which obviously we both do have, like that really affects your sleep. So then I think when you identify something that you think would actually really help your sleep, you want to desperately cling on to it, even if it means letting go of something else that would help you sleep, like sleeping with your partner.
Okay, I'll have you have words with her and then we can get that pod set up. Perhaps Nilsen wanted more. He wanted a more intimate and concrete partnership, but it never came to be, and after a year of living together, things started to fall apart. They both brought over various other lovers, and they were known to get into furious verbal arguments with each other. Then, eventually, Nilsen couldn't take it any longer. He couldn't stand living with someone who wasn't devoted entirely to him, loved only him, and existed solely for him. Well, mate, maybe stop bringing your lovers home, and that would help that situation, because it doesn't just seem like it's the other dude. What was his name?
David.
And so, despite how well things started, he insisted that David should move out in May of 1977. I mean, also fair play. Has David just been chilling this whole time? He's like, Nilsen goes off to work and David just chills and plays like Nintendo or whatever they had back in the day.
In the 70s.
Atari? I don't know, whatever was before. Pong. Nilsen now had the flat all to himself. Sure, he tried to start up relationships after, but they only lasted a few weeks at best, and he dumped them when they refused to move in with him. He was alone, he was lonely, and he felt that perhaps he was terrible company, that he would never find someone who would happily devote their whole being to him and him alone. No one alive anyway. Good Lord, no! That was just a quick about turn. As the old saying goes, idle hands are the devil's plaything. And when it comes to Dennis Nilsen, the devil was about to go to town. Just keep your hands busy with whatever you were doing with that mirror, okay? What was his name?
Thought that
Dennis?
was bad.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Like, I'm quite happy for you to go back to your weird mirror activities, whatever the they were, Dennis.
Well, brace yourself, because it's about to get a lot worse than the mirror.
I have to say, this is the first episode we've recorded together. Doing this with you feels so much like when I do this by myself, I'll just get like, oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, God. No. And somehow like having an outlet to be like, this is horrific, right? And you're like, yes, Simon, this is horrific. It just feels easier somehow.
Oh, good. Someone to confirm and share the horrificness with.
Yeah. It's like easing the burden.
Good. Love is death, death is love.
No, it's not, Dennis. No, it's not.
It's really not.
What the f***? Just throw that in as a title, like, yeah, of course, death is love, love is death. No.
Oh, poor Dennis. Actually, I don't know.
No.
I feel that, sorry. So a quote from him, I cause dreams which cause death. This is my crime. Again, I don't really understand that, but I'm not sure I want to.
I think it's he's talking about his fantasies, and his fantasies are to kill people. And he's like trying to make it sound like it's not a bad thing, but he's saying, no, I dreamed of killing people and then I kill people. That's my crime. It's like, well, yeah, Dennis, it's called murder, mate. Like,
You can't dress it up.
established one here. Yeah. Trying to make it sound all poetic and
So it's just murder and worse.
Yeah, dude. You're just a psycho. Sorry, you're just troubled.
It was December 29th, 1978, when he met his very first victim. This was 14-year-old Stephen Dean Holmes, and he was on his way.
We're not counting the brother as a victim and the sister.
That's a really good point. I think this means victim of, spoiler alert, murder.
He's gonna murder someone. Oh my God, I had no idea.
And shocking. So Stephen Dean Holmes, and he was on his way home alone from a rock concert that evening. While walking the dark streets of London, he decided to stop at the Cricklewood Arms pub for a late night drink, and that's where he came across Nilsen. You see, Nilsen had been drinking in his flat and got pissing drunk all by his lonesome. In his inebriated state, he decided that he must go out and seek companionship for the night, and that's how he too found himself at the Cricklewood Arms. He was already so far gone that the bartenders refused to serve him a single drop, and that's when he locked eyes with Stephen. The two of them started up a conversation, and Nilsen invited Stephen back to his flat to drink together, which the young
Wait,
boy...
how old's this kid?
I know, he's
Didn't
14.
we say he was like He's 14, bro!
I know.
What's he doing drinking in a pub? Okay. Oh, wait, yeah, Matt says here in capital letters he was 14.
Exactly. And exactly as you said, what was he doing inside the pub late at night? And Matt says, I must point out that Nilsen was 33 at the time. Can you say yuck? Yes, that is yuck.
Yeah.
Though according to Nilsen, he thought that Stephen was 17 and over the legal consenting age of 16, which if that's true is then kind of fair enough. We have to give credit where credit is due, and there's not much credit that can be given to this Dennis, but that would be fair enough.
It's interesting that how different the law is between the UK and the US, because in the US, I'm pretty sure that would just be, that's right. Like, you don't have to have that, oh, I didn't know, there's no blurry boundary. Although, to be fair, he is 33, you should know better.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, 33 and 17 is still a very big age gap. And
legal, though, over the age of
legal, yeah. But they're actually not an adult yet, so yeah, it's a grey area. Regardless, Nilsen took Stephen back to his flat where they listened to music and drank the night away until they both passed out. The next morning, Nilsen was the first to wake up. When he turned over, he saw Stephen still snoozing away next to him in his bed. For a moment, Nilsen felt content and happy to have someone next to him in the early morning hours. He caressed the young man, who didn't even stir, which isn't strange given the amount of alcohol that had to still be in his system. But then a thought bloomed in Nilsen's mind, a dark thought. If Stephen woke up, he'd want to head home. He'd want to leave him. He'd want to abandon him. Nilsen couldn't have that. He'd had too many people leave him already. Yeah.
I don't like where this is going.
I know. And he wanted Stephen to stay forever, so the boy could never wake up again. Nilsen grabbed a nearby necktie, sat on Stephen's waist, and when Stephen started waking up, Nilsen tied it around his neck and pulled it tight. Stephen fought and tried to push him off, but Nilsen was too big, too strong, and soon enough Stephen fell unconscious and became unable to fight it anymore. Then Nilsen dragged the unconscious kid to the kitchen, filled up a bucket of water, and then dunked Stephen's head into it. He held him there for several minutes as Stephen fought for his life. But soon enough the thrashing stopped. For Dennis Nilsen had murdered his first victim, and he was only just a kid.
14.
Yeah.
Okay.
It gets worse.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Oh, God.
After the deed was done, Nilsen picked Stephen's body up, brought it to the bathroom, stripped it down, and bathed it clean.
Oh, God.
I know.
I know where this is going.
Yeah. Later, he'd explained that he found the dead boy to be beautiful. Afterwards, he took Stephen's body back to the bedroom, placed it on the bed, and proceeded to caress. So I've never heard this phrase before. While honking the goose over it and onto it. I don't know if it's an American phrase or just not one I'm
new one to me, but I do know there are thousands of these. As we all know, death is love.
Indeed, and he is showing his love. So he decided he wanted to try out his darkest fantasies, and he tried to have intercourse with the corpse. However, he never dared to fully commit the act. He always considered his unliving companions as perfect in their death, so he never dared penetrate, opting instead for intercrural or thigh-ing
Don't
sex.
even want to know.
No, I know.
Don't even want to know.
I was like, I don't know.
I can imagine what thigh-ing sex is.
Yes.
This is a term I've also never heard before.
No.
But intercrural. Let's just leave it there. I'm not going to look that up.
Yeah, I know. I was like, should I look it up? And I was like, nope, don't want to.
Hard pass. Thank you.
I can do
Moving on.
without knowing what that is.
Yep.
That unpleasantness done, he then kept the body in his room overnight, sleeping next to it. And when he discovered that it had stiffened up from rigor mortis, he already had the perfect place in mind to hide the body.
Told you. He has that garden.
No.
Right?
Nope.
Oh.
No, you're wrong.
I was like, he's negotiating about that garden because he needs a place to put his bodies.
Well,
Anyway.
kind of, but yeah, you'll see. You'll see.
Okay. I wouldn't say I'm excited, but I'm looking forward to the mystery being solved. There's a quote from him here. I eased him into his new bed beneath the floorboards. Bro, you don't have to use this weird flowery language. Just, what's wrong with you? A week later, I wondered whether his body had changed at all or if it started to decompose. Yeah, you know, that's gonna happen. I disinterred him and pulled the dirt-stained youth up onto the floor. His skin was very dirty. I stripped myself naked and carried him to the bathroom and washed the body. There was practically no discoloration and his skin was pale white. His limbs were more relaxed than when I had put him down there. That ends the quote, and that is grim. Nilsen kept Stephen's body bound and putrefying under his floor for 8 months, until August the 11th, 1979, when he took it out to the back garden, lit a bonfire, and burned what was left of the poor 14-year-old. Having exclusive use of the God I told you did really have its perks, and sadly, Nilsen made the most of it. He still felt lonely, and he still craved a permanent connection, but at least in this way, he could have someone stay with him, pliable and unresisting, at least for a little while. Wait, this guy lives in London, right? In a flat. And he has this little garden out back. No one's going to notice this dude, like, making a f***off bonfire in his yard and throwing a body on it? Did you hear that? There was that crazy story. I think it was in India. There was some diplomat from somewhere, and he murdered his wife in, like, his house. And then he took her body. He made, like, a bonfire in the garden in, like, the diplomatic quarter, burned her, and then the police came and he was like, nah, you can't do anything. Yeah, I killed my wife, but I've got diplomatic immunity. And he just burned her body in a bonfire. I don't remember enough details about this to be any more of an interesting story like that, but that's crazy.
That really is.
By October the 11th, 1979, he was getting that dark, lonely feeling again. After heading out to St. Martin's Lane pub, he kept an eye out for someone he fancied, all while guzzling booze. It was then that he caught the side of Andrew Ho, a student from Hong Kong. They got to chatting, and Nilsen lured Andrew back to his flat with the promise of sex. After a few more drinks and chatter, Nilsen attempted to strangle him. But attempted is the key word here, as Andrew was able to fight him off and escape. This is part of the story where we'd like to say that we can start wrapping things up. The police got involved, the psycho went to prison forever, and that's the end of it. Sadly, that's not the reality we live in. You see, Andrew did go to the police. He did report the incident. Oh god, this is going to be one of those like 70s situations where it's like, oh yeah, but you're gay, right? So that's what you guys get up to. That's normal for the gays. This kind of, I've seen it in these episodes before where the police, if you're different, if you're a sex worker, any of this stuff, they just give less of a shit. And I think even today, and definitely back then. Anyway, let's see. He did report the incident, and Nilsen was brought in for questioning. Okay, but it all fizzled out shortly after as Andrew, for some damn reason, refused to follow through and press formal charges. Oh, okay, not what I expected. But also, maybe he wasn't out of the closet. So maybe if he did press charges, then it would become record.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I don't know. Hong Kong, I would imagine, is quite a conservative society, but I'm not sure about that. Just speculating.
I don't know either, but I would have thought so as well, especially as in the 70s.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't know much about Hong Kong in the 70s, but it does feel like obviously conservative in the UK and more so in Hong Kong. Just my vibe. He went out on a hunt on December 3rd, 1979, where he visited the Princess Louise pub in Holborn. There he met Kenneth James Ockenden, a 23-year-old Canadian student who was visiting relatives in London and was planning on doing a tour of the UK while he was there. Upon learning that Kenneth was a tourist, Nilsen suggested he take him to see some of the local sites. and then he offered to host him for dinner and drinks at his place. Kenneth accepted, and after a quick trip to the store to stock back up on liquor, they headed back to Nilsen's flat. According to Nilsen, he doesn't exactly remember how long they spent time together before he strangled Kenneth to death. However, what he does remember is strangling Kenneth with the cord of his headphones while Kenneth was listening to music. After this, Nilsen dragged Kenneth's body across the floor and proceeded to listen to music on those same headphones as he got down to business. I know that's kind of a throwaway line there, but doesn't that kind of speak to something, like some psychopathy or something? What do you think? Like that he's just like, he's completely chill with like, oh no, I just murdered someone with these. I mean, might as well listen to music on them while they're there. I don't know, that seems like a normal person's not going to murder someone in the first place, but this just seems like extra, like, why?
Yeah, I agree.
The next day, Nilsen took out his camera and he started taking pictures of the body, all in different positions and different places, no doubt to pleasure himself to later. Then to satiate, as we say, don't take pictures of your crimes is one of the rules. We have rules that have developed in this show over the years, and one of them, don't take photos of your crimes. It's a bad idea.
Sensible rule.
Yeah. Also, this is the 70s. Doesn't he have to take that to like Boots to get it developed? Like, what's he going to do? Set up his own darkroom or some shit? Then, to salute his need for closeness and physical contact, he took the body, dressed it in socks and underwear, turned on the TV, laid down on his bed, and then draped the coarse spread eagle over the top of himself, its face resting on the crook of his neck, bro, and caressed it as he watched shows for several hours. When he was finished, Nilsen wrapped the body up and placed it below the floorboards. Sadly, even then, he wouldn't let Kenneth rest, as he wasn't shy about digging him back up and placing the rotting body into an armchair next to him as he watched TV and drank. The smell of decay wasn't a deterrent to him in his quest for perpetual company. Dude. 5 months later, on May 17th, 1980, Nilsen struck again. His third victim was 16-year-old Martin Brandon Duffy, a catering student and runaway from Birkenhead, which is located opposite Liverpool. He had hitchhiked to London on May 13th and began sleeping near Euston rail station for 4 days. Nilsen himself had just returned from a union conference in Southport. Oh, because he's in the trade unions, right? And he was making his way out of the train station when he spotted Duffy, who was exhausted and half-starved by that point. He was an easy mark, and one that Nilsen took full advantage of. When Nilsen invited Duffy back to his flat for food, drink, and a safe place to sleep, Duffy eagerly accepted. I just want to say, we got a picture of him on the front page here, right? This doesn't, and I don't want to like judge people by their looks, but this doesn't look like the sort of dude who I'd be like, yeah, no, I'd go back to his place. He seems safe. He looks scary. He looks scary. But I don't know. Apparently people are chill with him. Duffy eagerly accepted, thinking this was nothing more than the kindness of a passing stranger. He'd stay for the day, 2 at most, and then he'd be back on the road, perhaps headed back home. Sadly, he'd never get that chance. As soon as his head hit the pillow, Duffy happily drifted off to dreamland, and he'd never wake up again. As soon as Duffy was asleep, Nilsen got to work and tied a ligature around the boy's neck. Duffy was so exhausted that he didn't even stir. Then, while sitting on Duffy's chest, Nilsen tightened the ligature and strangled Duffy until he was unconscious, before dragging him by the neck to the kitchen, where he was unceremoniously drowned, just like Stephen. After murdering the boy, Nilsen proceeded to drag the body to the bathroom, where he took a bath with it, describing it as, quote, the youngest looking I had ever seen. This is just so weird. He then proceeded to molest and fondle the corpse, complimenting the body itself, all while waxing his carrots. Before shoving it into a cupboard for safekeeping. Soon enough, though, the body started to bloat, and so he put it under the floorboards. The next victim, wow, we are suddenly... I felt like we had like 8 pages of like, oh, okay, he's weird. And now it's just we've had 2 pages of him just constantly murdering people. Wow. The next victim was 26-year-old William David Sutherland, whom Nilsen met on August 2nd, 1980. Originally from Edinburgh, he was a father of one who occasionally worked as a male sex worker. Not much is known about William's death, as Nilsen himself couldn't remember, or at least pretended not to remember anything about it. All he ever said was that he hazily remembered strangling the man from behind and then waking up with a dead body next to him in bed. This is just because he's blackout drunk, right? Why he's not remembering this stuff.
Yeah, I assume so.
William ended up underneath the floorboards with the others. Wow.
After that, Nilsen hit his stride. Is he not already in his stride? God.
Oh, where are we going?
He started killing far more frequently, almost once a month.
Bro, it was... You killed like 4 people in 2 pages. And I know pages are not a measurement of time, but it felt very quick.
Felt intense, very intense. God. With confidence, in his own words, end of the day, end of the drink, end of a person, floorboards back, carpet replaced, and back to work at Denmark Street. Oh gosh, it's just, it's chilling, isn't it? How there's just, there doesn't seem to be any ability to recognize the magnitude of what he's doing. It's so kind of just matter of fact.
It feels like he feels he's part of like a fable or something. Like the way he writes is kind of like, I feel like he thinks he's in a story.
Yeah.
Weird.
The terrible thing about it, though, the fact that we don't know their names. To this day, there are several victims of Nilsen whose names are unfortunately lost to history, several of whom lost their lives while he stayed at 195 Melrose Avenue, though 3 of them, those who would have been his 5th, 8th and 11th victims, he later claimed never existed at all. That's strange.
He's like, no, I did kill people, just not that guy, this guy, and this guy, who, okay.
Yeah. Of the confirmed unnamed victims, the first died in October of 1980 after Nilsen picked him up in the Salisbury Arms pub. All that Nilsen could recall of him was that he was a male sex worker of either Filipino or Mexican descent, between 20 and 30 years old, of slender build, standing at around 5'10" in height. This poor soul's name will be lost to time forevermore. The next victim died a month later, in November 1980. He was English, emaciated, homeless, and a young man in his 20s with a pale complexion and several missing teeth. Nilsen found the unfortunate man sleeping in a doorway at the top of Charing Cross Road, and so he asked him to come and stay at his flat. The man accepted. They took a taxi back to Melrose Avenue, and soon after the man fell asleep. Nilsen strangled him to death. He noted the odd way in which the victim died, namely that his legs were moving in circular motions over and over as it was happening, as well as the thought that killing this young man had been as easy as taking candy from a baby.
Just because you're killing people when they're asleep, dude. It's not like, so easy. Like, what are you trying to say here?
Yeah, it's weird. But there does seem to be like this sense of pride or like accomplishment kind of somehow.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. I always think I feel like he thinks he's building a legend or something.
Yeah.
What's the opposite of you got fame and infamy? What is like the opposite of like a legacy or I don't know. Whatever it is, this is what that guy has.
I don't know either, but I know what you mean. By the end of 1980, the flat was undoubtedly getting rather smelly. Numerous dead bodies stuffed under the floor will do that, Yes, they will.
Why is he not burning them? Seems kind of like a good idea to burn the bodies rather than just leave them under the floorboards in your house. Where, do you remember when I think it was a rat or something, died underneath the floorboards at the Whitstable house, and it stank for months?
No, I don't remember
when
that.
Our parents were living there. No, it was terrible, and they were some little animal had died under there, and the whole place smelled, and they were like, well, we've just tiled the floor, so we can't dig it up and find this animal. So they were just kind of waiting for it to rot away, and that was like a little mouse or something, not like a full-size person. It must smell, and it smelled terrible.
Oh, but this is the thing. You think, how do the neighbours not know at this point? How is the smell not kind of permeating outside of the apartment?
Right. Also, and I don't want to give advice to criminals again, but black bags, airtight, seal that shit up. What's wrong with you?
No, but he likes to go back. He likes to go back to them, doesn't he? He doesn't want them concealed.
Oh, this is so grim.
Okay, so for months, Nilsen had tried his best to slow the decomposition process as much as possible, since he wanted to keep each and every one of his companions as long as he could, like some sort of, necrophiliac hoarder.
I just read that. A necrophiliac hoarder, dude.
Oh, gosh. I think it just really shows the emotional component to it, doesn't it? That he has killed these people because he wants them to stay with him. And I guess the way in which he's treating the bodies once they've died just further highlights that, doesn't it? Which is really sad.
Necrophiliac hoard is a phrase I never hope to hear again.
One time only is enough. So at least twice a day, he'd undo the floorboards, then spray insecticide and deodorant into the space to deter bugs and get rid of the smell. However, it was never enough. The smell only worsened, and upon inspecting the corpses, he'd noticed that numerous bugs had gotten to them despite his best efforts. So what did he do with the bodies? Nilsen took all 6 out of the floor, putting his years of butchering experience to bad use. He dissected what was left, removed all their internal organs, disposed of said organs either beside a fence, behind his flat, or close to Gladstone Park, and then burned the remains, as per Simon's advice.
Good advice, but I wouldn't recommend removing the organs first and hiding them somewhere else. Maybe because there's too much. This is really grim. Is there too much liquid in there to burn?
Oh God, I don't know.
Maybe he knows it, and I don't want. Again, this is really grim. Maybe he knows this because he was a cook.
Maybe.
Like he's like, you can cook meat, but you can't cook like a whole animal, right? Oh, sorry.
Another one not to think about too much.
Moving swiftly on.
And then burn the remains all to ashes and cinders in several bonfires in the back garden area. Obviously, there would be the smell of burning flesh in the air, so he covered the fire with an old tyre, concealing the smell with one of melting rubber. Oh, can you imagine that?
How your neighbours not being like you're burning tyres? That smells terrible.
Any remaining bone fragments were crushed with a rake. He recounted later on that a few children watched on as the bonfires burned, unaware of the purpose or content, amused that it would be perfect if these children were dancing around him in the flames, as if it was a massive funeral pyre. Burning would quickly become one of his main methods of body disposal. His next victim died on January 4th, 1981, described as an 18-year-old blue-eyed Scot with blonde hair. He met Nilsen in the Golden Lion pub in Soho before being invited back to his flat for a drinking contest. Once there, the two men engaged in their booze-filled competition, after which Nilsen strangled the boy to death with a tie. After molesting the body, it was kept underneath the floorboards for a little over a week, and Nilsen took off to work on January 12th in order to dissect and burn the body in his backyard. With February came the death of another poor unfortunate soul, once more unidentified. All that Nilsen could recall was that he was slim, dark-haired, stood 5'9", had been in his early 20s, and was originally from Belfast. Nilsen was out wandering the streets of the West End after all the pubs had closed their doors, and that's when he came upon the young man. Just like he'd done with all the others, Nilsen invited him back to his flat to drink and strangled him after he'd fallen asleep. He cleaned the body, fondled and cuddled it, used it for his own sexual gratification, and then put it under the floorboards until he was able to burn it.
The final confirmed victim that died at Melrose Avenue crossed Nilsen's path on September 17th, 1981. This is 23-year-old Malcolm Stanley Barlow, an orphan living on the streets of Sheffield. He spent most of his life in foster care homes and ended up homeless after he aged out of the system. Nilsen didn't even have to go looking for him either, since as he was returning home, he found Malcolm slumped against the wall of his building in dire need. You see, Malcolm, on top of all his other misfortunes, was also an epileptic, and the medication he'd taken for his condition had made him very weak. Instead of taking Malcolm inside the flat and killing him, like the others before him, Nilsen shockingly took pity on the poor guy instead. Is this our first emotion?
Yeah.
For other people?
It
first
is.
bit of empathy?
Okay.
Interesting. But again, we are relying on his recollection here, his telling, so we can't be assured of its truthfulness. Obviously, this is something that occurs inside his head, so at some point he told someone this, and that could be a lie.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, like he was saying earlier, that he likes them vulnerable and likes them passive. So it might not actually, whilst the language is taking pity, is it taking pity, or is it recognizing that actually maybe this is someone that's more likely to be vulnerable and kind of passive in his words? So actually it was self-serving.
100% that, in my opinion. Like, based on everything we know about this piece of shit so far, it's definitely like, oh no, I didn't feel sorry for him. I just saw an opportunity. After helping the ailing man to his feet, Nilsen walked into the hospital and made sure he was perfectly comfortable and cared for before returning home. So, you're probably all wondering how he ended up being a victim, especially since Nilsen himself had seen to his health. Well, Malcolm was so grateful to his generous saviour that he decided to return to the flat to express his gratitude. Well, Nilsen was pleased as punch to see him up and about again and invited him inside for a nice warm meal. I think he foresaw this. Because I think it's very reasonable to be, okay, this person took me to hospital, I'm going to go around and, bring him a bottle of wine or whatever, just to say, thank you for helping me out. Malcolm never exited the flat ever again, having been strangled right after enjoying his last meal. Nilsen then followed his usual MO of giving the body a bath, indulging in some necrophilia, and then spending some time snuggling up with the body in front of the TV. But when it became time to put away his new toy, he had to settle for shoving him under the kitchen sink since space under the floorboards was becoming a bit cramped, and to think he would have continued to live had he not returned to the house to show his appreciation. The poor lad. That would be the last murder Nilsen would commit at Melrose Avenue, as in mid-1981 the landlord informed him that the flat would be totally remodeled. Nilsen was asked to vacate the premises, and while initially hesitant to do so, he took the offered £1,000. Whoa, in the 1980s?
That would have been
That's
a
gonna
lot.
be like 10 grand today. Yeah, wow, okay. Maybe not. Yeah, I'd say eight grand.
It's a
That's a lot
lot.
of money. And he agreed to move house. He ended up renting an attic flat at 23D Cranley Gardens in the Muswell Hill district of North London on October 5th, 1981, and spent his last day at Melrose Avenue dissecting and burning the last of the bodies that had stowed away under the floorboards. The Muswell Hill murderer. There's always an adjustment period when someone moves from one home to another. I've moved several times in my life, and each time it takes a bit of time to get settled and fall into a proper routine. That's Matt. Although, also me. I think that's everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah, Nilsen dealt with the same, though his adjustment process was a lot different from your everyday Joes. After all, normal people don't have to adjust to the fact that they're no longer got a convenient place to safely hide the bodies of their victims. It was certainly aggravating to Nilsen. He no longer had exclusive access to a garden, nor did he have any floorboards he could pull up at any given moment, it being an attic flat. So, for the next 2 months, Nilsen refrained from killing anyone, though he would want to kill everyone. It was hard for him. He was very much tempted, but he knew if he did, and he had no plan, things would go badly for him quickly. And so he tried to live a normal life, at least for a while. He even got a dog that he named Bleep. Nice extra detail there. That didn't stop him from experiencing heart-wrenching loneliness, though, and he thus continued to invite men over for drinks and a good time. That doesn't mean things didn't get dicey, as there were at least 2 incidents worth noting here. The first was with a Japanese chef by the name of Toshimitsu Ozawa, who'd come to the flat for a few drinks and fled in terror when Nilsen came at him with a tie. The second was a 19-year-old student named Paul Nobbs. He'd gotten wasted and passed out in Nilsen's flat, only to wake up dizzy and short of breath with popped blood vessels in his eyes. He was strangled. That's definitely, he got the tie around his neck and just doesn't remember. He went to the hospital at Nilsen's suggestion, only to be told that he'd been strangled in his sleep. Nilsen, what are you doing? It's like, you should get that checked out. Just they're gonna know, dude. He didn't just strangle himself. Nilsen almost let his dark impulses win, and he'd only just managed to stop himself from killing Nobbs while in his drunken slumber. For some reason, neither man pressed any charges. I'm going to go for that some reason again, being he's probably not out of the closet. Eventually, though, his loneliness became too much, and Nilsen went out to satiate his need for companionship yet again.
It was March of 1982 when 23-year-old John Peter Howlett of High Wycombe, Buckinghamshire, was out drinking in a pub near Leicester Square. It was there he was spotted by Nilsen. He approached John and struck up a conversation, and eventually asked John if he'd like to return with him to his flat to continue drinking. John said yes, and after drinking the night away and watching a movie together, John wobbled his way to Nilsen's bed and passed out. Nilsen let him sleep for about an hour, all while he sat at the edge of his bed, nursing a drink and staring at the young man as he dozed. The urges and loneliness washed over him like a tidal wave, and Nilsen knew he had to have it, had to make him stay. After grabbing an upholstery strap, he wrapped it around John's neck. As it pulled tight and Nilsen started strangling him, John woke up and tried to fight back. A quote from Dennis: "It's about time you went." And after a few minutes of struggle, John faded into unconsciousness. The struggle shook Nilsen to the point that he had to take a moment to collect himself. John had put up a nasty fight, and Nilsen ended up sporting fingerprints around his own neck for a week. He tried to finish John off 3 times, putting the strap tighter and tighter, yet each time John would gasp desperately for air.
Jesus.
Fed up with the repeated failures, Nilsen simply filled his tub with water and dumped John's head under, drowning him. After that, it was the same song and dance, washing the body, cuddling with it, then wanking off the top. He really was back to his dark ways. However, the question now stood, what was he to do with the body? There weren't any floor beds, no convenient backyard or garden to burn it away. So now what? Why, dismemberment, of course.
Back to his butchery.
Yeah. Nilsen chopped the body up right there in the flat, threw the larger bones he couldn't smash away with the trash, and then flushed the flesh and organs down the toilet.
Ugh.
And as an added touch, he also boiled the heads, hands, and feet to remove the flesh of the bones. Something he'd actually done back at his old place to a few of his older victims before turning the rest of the remainder to ash.
Is he going to eat something? Is he a cannibal?
I know, I can't...
Was Jeffrey Dahmer a cannibal?
I don't know, I don't remember.
I don't remember. Because I thought we were going to get to cannibalism.
Yeah.
But maybe not. I wish I could remember if Dahmer was a cannibal. Anyway.
This would be his new preferred method of disposal. From that point onward, and now that he had started again, he wasn't going to stop. 2 months later, he would attack again. This time, his victim was 21-year-old Carl Stotter, whom he met at the Black Cat pub in Camden. They drank and talked long into the night, and upon learning that Carl was suffering from depression at the time, Nilsen knew this one should be easy. After getting Carl nice and plastered, he invited the man back to his flat, reassuring him that it was only to stay the night, no sexual strings attached. After drinking even more, Carl passed out on top of a sleeping bag. What happened next could potentially be described as a comedy of errors, if the undertones weren't so horrific. In the middle of the night, Carl snapped awake, convinced that someone or something was strangling him. He couldn't breathe, he could barely move, and all he could hear was an angry voice whispering, "Stay still." He passed out again, and the next thing he knew, he was being dunked into water, his head fully submerged. Struggling for his life, he lifted his head briefly, only managing to get out the words, "No more, please, no more."
Wait. I'm onto something. I think I'm onto something. This is told from his perspective, from Carl's perspective. And Matt, I don't think, would put words that from his brain onto the page. So I think Carl survives somehow. Or is that just not true? It's probably not true.
We'll have to wait and see.
Okay.
All will be revealed.
Because this feels like it's from his perspective. And when it's like from his perspective, I'm always like, I see that as a little bit of a spoiler of being like, okay. When we've got a survivor.
Yeah, different tone, different perspective, as you say. So we shall see.
Yeah. Okay.
Carl fell unconscious again, thinking that he had succeeded in killing him. Nilsen moved him to his armchair. However, Nilsen realized his would-be victim was still alive when Bleep began licking the man. And so, after moving and rubbing Carl's limbs and chest to get his circulation going again, Nilsen picked him up, put him into bed, covered him in a blanket, and then went to bed.
Yeah, the next morning Carl woke up dazed, confused, and sore. And as soon as Nilsen saw that he was up, he embraced him. He fed Carl a wagon full of bullshit, saying that Carl had gotten up, caught the zipper of the sleeping bag, and that it had a nightmare and had started strangling himself. And as for the tub of cold water, he lied through his teeth again, saying that he'd put Carl into the tub to resuscitate him, that he'd gone into shock from the accidental strangling. And the thing is, Carl believed him. He stayed with Nilsen for a few more days, falling in and out of consciousness all the while from the ordeal, and the whole time he was being handed lie after lie. And he believed it all, thinking his new friend had saved his life. That falling in and out of consciousness for days afterwards, that sounds really like
dangerous.
Something's happened. Like has he got brain damage or something from being strangled? Because I feel like people don't just randomly fall in and out of consciousness.
Yeah, I guess like severe concussion or, as you say, some sort of like brain injury.
Right. And in the end, Nilsen even asked if he wanted to stay longer. Carl declined, perhaps still on the edge and growing more suspicious as time passed. And so Nilsen took him to the railway and sent him off with well wishes and the hope that they could meet again, which they would, but much later on. So far, survivor. September 1982 rolled around, and with it a new victim. Nilsen was in town, walking on Shaftesbury Avenue, when he spotted someone he unfortunately fancied. This is 27-year-old Archibald Graham Allen. Originally from Motherwell, North Lancashire, and a father of one, Allen was simply trying to hail a cab on the road when he fell into Nilsen's crosshairs. Nilsen struck up conversation with the guy and offered to cook Allen a meal if he would simply accompany him back to his flat. Allen accepted, and the two made their way to Nilsen's flat in Cranley Gardens. This strikes me as strange, but I guess this happens. I don't know, I've never been approached by anyone being like, oh, could you walk me home and I'll cook you a meal? I'd be like, fuck off, you weirdo. Like, I don't know, it feels like very odd. As Nilsen recounts it, he and Allen enjoyed their time together. He made the man an omelette as promised, and while this is so specific, and while he doesn't remember the exact moment it happened, he did remember walking up behind Allen with the full intent to kill. He later tried to claim that Allen had choked to death on the omelette, but I'd say his brain was very clearly scrambled if he thought anyone was going to believe that. Just like it done with John Howlett, Allen's body was dismembered and his remains were either disposed of down the toilet or tossed in the trash. His final victim was 20-year-old Stephen Neil Sinclair, who died on... Ooh, final victim. Good. I mean, not good, but good it's ending.
Yes.
January 26, 1983, a heroin addict who suffered from the habit of self-harming. He was originally from Perth, Australia, and was having a tough go of it in England. He was last seen on the way to the London Underground in the company of Dennis Nilsen. Just like the others, he was given alcohol, as well as drugs, and after some time he slumped down in Nilsen's armchair, out cold. Oh, Stephen, here I go again. Those were the words Nilsen sighed as he knelt in front of Sinclair and wrapped a ligature constructed with a necktie and a rope around his neck, strangling him while the rock opera, Tommy, played loudly in the background. It was only after Sinclair was dead that Nilsen noticed something. Stephen's wrists were bandaged. Oh, he's tried to kill himself. After he removed the bandages, he was met with the sight of several cuts along Stephen's wrists, which had been healing. Stephen Sinclair tried to end himself only a few days before they'd met. Whether this affected Nilsen in his usual aftercare activities is unknown, but regardless, he stripped the body, bathed it, rubbed it in talcum powder, placed it in his bed, and then, after arranging his mirrors so that he could see every why, Nilsen stripped down himself and snuggled with the body, kissing and falling asleep with it, consoling the deceased boy with a simple "Good night, Stephen." Then, upon waking, he dissected the body, stored the parts in plastic bags sealed in the same elastic bondages that Sinclair had on his wrists, and kept them for several days within his home before tossing out the bones and flushing the rest. 12 victims, perhaps 15, men and boys, either down on their luck or looking for love themselves. None deserved to fall into the hands of a lonely and demented fiend of a man, but thankfully, we finished up our murderous timeline, and now we get to talk about how Dennis Nilsen's murder spree came to an end. Yes! Wait, they still got death penalty? When was the death penalty abolished? Oh, by the way, I love the death penalty. That's an overstatement. When we first started doing this show, like years ago, I was like, no, I don't think people deserve to die. And then I'm like, no, some people do. I think some people just deserve to die. And yeah, people don't like that about this show. How it's changed me.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking that's interesting because I would say I'm anti the death penalty, but I was thinking if I continue to do this with you, it would be interesting. Will my perspective change? We'll have to see.
We'll see. Maybe you've got stronger morals than I do, but I was like, after like 3 episodes, I was like, nah, this guy killed like 200 children. Like, put him in the chair. Let's go.
Okay, we'll check back in after 3 episodes where my views are at. A resigned and miserable end. For 6 years, Dennis Nilsen got away with murder. For 6 years, he led all these unsuspecting men back to his flat, killed them, desecrated their remains, and then disposed of their bodies. He had managed to slip under the radar, and his victims were never linked to him. And it helped that his victims were either homosexuals in a time where homosexuality was still looked at as a grievous sin, or the fact that many were also homeless and living on the street. To the police, they simply didn't exist.
That's what I was saying earlier. Like, even today, I think it's much more true with sex workers these days.
Yeah.
But it's like the police are like, oh, no, you're less important. You asked for it, didn't you? You're in that line of work. And it's like, Jesus Christ, it's very old-fashioned, but it still happens.
Yeah, those stereotypes definitely like affect affect how the police respond in these situations.
It's kind of crazy.
It is, which makes the story of how he got caught so much sweeter. It was February 8th, 1983. On that day, the other tenants in Nilsen's building had started making complaints to the estate agent about the pipes, with Nilsen himself being the most vocal. It seemed that the plumbing was backed up, that the pipes weren't working how they were supposed to. Gee, I wonder why.
Oh, I'm shaking my head. He's like, the pipes are... You flushed like several livers down the pipes. Like, what are you thinking?
But I was still surprised that it's the pipes that people are noticing first and not the smell. How is the smell not permeating? I don't get it.
Oh, come on. He Febrezed that shit. It was fine. He let it breathe, you know?
Oh, so grim.
It's not the burning of bodies in the backyard of a London flat. It's not the smell. It's not the fact that everyone he knows or bumps into just disappears and he's the last. He's doing it in pubs. He goes to, it's like, oh no, did you see who that guy left with? Because he was never seen again. It's like, nah. That's the pipes.
The pipes that did it. Oh, let's see. So for some reason, it never seemed to dawn on this seemingly smart individual that the reason his pipes were clogged up was due to his extracurricular activities. A diner rock plumber by the name of Michael Catran was then dispatched to sort out the pipes. Wasting no time, he opened up the drain while Nilsen stood right by his side, making sure that the guy did a proper job. Brazen.
I just don't know what you're thinking is going to happen next,
mate.
Like,
has he really not put the pieces together?
I don't understand. I literally do not understand this thinking. He's not dumb.
Yeah,
we know
exactly.
this. All right. Well, we know where this is going, don't we?
Indeed. So yeah, as soon as the drain was opened up and Michael got to work, he found the issue. He started pulling small chunks of a squishy meat-like substance that included pieces of skin and small bones out of the drain. And as he worked, the terrible odour started filling the air, the telltale scent of rotting flesh. And what did the smart-ass Nilsen say when Michael remarked that strange fleshy substance? He said, it looks to me like someone is flushing down their Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh no, don't do that to me, dude. I love KFC.
Oh yeah, no, let's not think about it.
Oh no, let's just move on. I was thinking about having KFC this weekend.
Yeah, sure, Dennis. And I'm David Tennant. I don't get that.
Oh, I think it's a bit of an ongoing joke that
okay.
Matt will, because he has not written this with the knowledge that you will be reading this with me.
Okay.
So it's like a little bit of an in-joke that we have running that he'll just randomly compare himself to people that he is not.
Okay.
In this case, it's a nice British reference of David Tennant. So there we go.
Thank you, Matt. But you see, Michael Catran knew that he was onto something and he wanted to investigate further. He told his supervisor, Gary Wheeler, about his odd find and they agreed to look into the matter the next day, returning at around 7:30 in the morning to investigate. However, when they arrived and undid the same drain, they found that it had already been cleaned out. No, not suspicious at all. Thankfully, this caused their suspicions to rise even further and they dug even deeper. They opened up the pipes further down the drain and came across the same smell. When they unclogged the pipes, more bones and skin-covered flesh came sloshing out of it, and they were able to establish that this particular pipe led up to the top of the building, more specifically, the attic flat.
I don't understand at that point. It's like, I mean, I get it. You got to clean it out. I mean, it's definitely suspicious, but it's less suspicious than pieces of a body being in there. But it's like, dude, I don't. This seems like dropping the ball so hard.
Yeah.
Like, there's gonna be more stuff in there. You got it. This is. I make this joke on the channel again, like an on-running one. Dude, it's time to flee to Lebanon. Lebanon extradites nobody, so it's where all the criminals have to go because there's no extradition treaties. Dude, it's time to flee. Now is the time to flee. You've got to go into hiding, or maybe just like, I don't know, live in the forest. It's time. Time's up.
But I think let's come back to this, like when he does get caught, because yeah, that part of it is interesting as well.
Ooh, okay, we'll see. Once again, the flesh looked human to them, and once again, I thought it looked like KFC, my dude. They're not making people into KFC. And upon closer inspection, the bones at least I hope not, appear to be from a human hand. Please, just for clarity, that's a joke. Please don't sue me, KFC. At this point, they'd seen enough, and both men called the police. Why would both of them call the police? I was in a car accident and I called the police, like, because that's what you do. And the other guy's like, okay, I will call the police. And I'm like, dude, I'm already calling the police. Like, you don't need to call them. And so he's like off calling the police. And I'm like, but I already did that. And then the woman's on the phone and she's like, wait, is the other guy calling the police? And I'm like, yeah, I told him not to. And then she's having a go at me. She's like, well, why did you both call us? And I'm like, I called you first and then I told the other guy not to. Like, what am I supposed to do in this situation?
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, I think the guy was just because my side of the accident was a lot worse than his. Okay. Like, I T-boned him. It was his fault. Insurance and police agreed, but I T-boned him and all of his airbags went off and stuff, and my car was just like a little bit banged up. Anyway, being as discreet as possible, they bagged up what samples they could and, along with the police, went to the mortuary at Hornsey. They were given to renowned pathologist David Bowen, who, upon examining the remains, told the police that they were indeed human. Michael and Gary had even managed to collect a piece from a victim's throat that was so intact they could still make out the ligature marks on it. Police were dispatched back to the building and the investigation was headed up by Detective Chief Inspector Peter J. They were led up the building to the flat, and as soon as Nilsen returned home from work, they confronted him and asked him about his plumbing issues. Having some trouble with the pipes, are we, mate? I wonder why. Nilsen tried to play it off, asking why they wanted to know so much about the plumbing and wanted to know if they were health inspectors. He let the police enter his flat, though, and the first thing that hit them was the smell. It smelled of rot, decay, putrefaction. Whatever you want to call it, it is a distinct smell, truly unsettling and oddly sweet at the same time, and the whole flat stank of it. The officers hit a proverbial wall of reek, a haze of disgusting odor that seemed to permeate every inch of the residence, and this normal-looking dude seemed to be oblivious to it. Hell, the smell was so bad that they'd caught whiffs of it as they waited outside his front door. But Nilsen, calm as can be, put his stuff down from work and asked why the police had come to call, all over some blocked pipes. It was then that the Inspector J informed him that the blockage was the result of someone flushing human remains, bones, and meat down their toilet. Nilsen's response? Good grief, how awful. It's like, bro, you're cooked, man. Come on, give it up. Get a lawyer. You've already missed Lebanon. You've missed the boat on that one. But Jay didn't want to waste any time with this nonsense and confronted Nilsen by saying, stop messing about, where's the rest of the body? Dennis Nilsen simply sighed, shrugged his shoulders, and told the police that the rest of the remains were stored in a couple of plastic bags before pointing at a nearby wardrobe where the horrific smell was wafting out of. It's a long story. It goes back a long time. I'll tell you everything. I want to get it off my chest. Not here, at the police station. Well, it turned around quite quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, see, that's what's so interesting. Like, you know, he says, good grief, how awful. It's not like he admits it, but then as soon as he's confronted, like, he's like, okay, yeah, fine, I did it, I'll tell you everything. Which is just an interesting response and a non-typical response.
It does seem like, because literally a sentence ago he was denying it. He's like, oh my God, what? And now he's like, yeah, no, you got me. They're in the cupboard.
Yeah, and saying he wants to get it off his chest. It's confusing.
Do you think he just was like, I don't know, like something twigged in his mind? He's like, oh, fuck it, now's the time. I just need to be done with this. It's going to all come crumbling down anyway.
Yeah,
and it just was that moment of clarity.
Yeah, and I guess as we're saying, like, he is intelligent, so maybe he realised, like, look, they obviously have the evidence. Let's just get it over with. Let's just, you know, get the process going. I'm not going to be able to get away with this.
I feel the real intelligent person would be like, all right, I know I'm done, but I need to ask a lawyer. It'd be like, because, okay, you're going to prison, but are you going to prison like whole life? Or are you going to like, what's the politically correct term for the place where they, like the madhouse, the mental institution? What are we saying these days?
So like a psychiatric hospital.
Psychiatric hospital, thank you. Look, yeah, you can correct all my ways. Yeah. And just like that, Dennis Nilsen found himself under arrest for murder. When asked en route to the station how many people he had killed, Nilsen didn't even bother lying and calmly told the officers 15 or 16 since 1978. That evening, as police officers and forensic teams swarmed his building, the public was already in a frenzy after news broke that the bodies had been discovered in the attic. Once inside, the police made their way to the wardrobe, and indeed, they found 2 big black trash bags, just as promised, and they were clearly full. After taking them to the mortuary and opening them up, they were greeted by the sight of 2 dissected torsos and a shopping bag containing various internal organs in one bag, along with a human skull and almost no meat left on the bone, as well as a severed head and a torso with arms but no hands. Add in what was found within the piping of the building, and we're talking about a full-blown horror show. Do you think this affects the resale value of that property? Like, I know this is really, like, morbid and stuff, but I do wonder whether, like, if you're going to like rent that flat, is someone going to tell you that, oh, this is where that Dennis Nilsen guy lived? Do they have to declare that? I mean, probably not, right?
No, I don't think like.
But we know where it
officially,
is.
Yeah, I don't think like an estate agent or something has to tell you, but I think you might know from the news, or other people might tell you, like when you're visiting the flat, like viewing the flat.
So there's a house near where I live, which was like, be a little bit generic, but one of the big bad Nazis lived there. Like, if I told you the name, you'll be like, oh wow, okay, that dude. He lived in this house, and it's a beautiful house. But everyone knows that he lived in this house. Like, it is famous, like, for this. And I'm like, does that mean the house is like cheaper because this horrible dude lived there? I don't know. It's not been for sale, but I always wonder if that would like affect the resale value of that property, because it's like, oh, that dude lived here and he was planning all this horrible shit.
Yeah, and do you like somehow feel it in the house? Like, I don't necessarily believe in like energies or auras or anything like that, but like,
no,
yeah,
but you know the history. Like,
yeah.
I don't believe in any of that shit. I think it's all nonsense.
Yeah.
But you just like be wandering around being like, oh, those same feet trod these same boards, you know?
And had all of those atrocious ideas. Like, yeah, it is weird, the history that a building holds and what that means for people that are in it afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, he was probably just chilling out. And I walk past it, you can look in the garden, you probably think, oh, he's probably out there like sipping a beer, coming up with more efficient ways to do genocide. And you're like, God damn, dude. Anyway, the next day, February the 10th, 1983, Nilsen sat in the police hot seat, handheld and held nothing back as he confessed to everything. He told them about all the victims he'd killed in his flat at Cranley Gardens, and then confessed to all the murders he'd committed at Melrose Avenue. He might not have been able to remember all of their names, but he remembered everything that he did to them, and he went over each and every murder in vivid detail. He even owned up to 7 other attempted murders, where the victim thankfully got away. One thing he insisted on making clear, though, was that his claims that it was never his initial intention to kill the victims until the moment he decided to. Because that matters. It's like, no. It's like, same for me. I don't intend to kill anyone until I do. Like, what the f***? That makes there's no sense there. I guess he's trying to say it's not premeditated.
Yeah.
But you know who you are. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah, been killing people, kind of, we know where this leads. It's not a surprise.
Yeah, it's like, oh, change my mind. Oh, Jesus. Can you say bullshit? The very same day, not only were more remains found on the property at Cranley Gardens, but he was driven back to Melrose Avenue, where he pointed out where each of his macabre funeral pyres had burned away the bodies of his undeserving victims. And when he was asked if he felt any remorse, Nilsen bluntly stated that, quote, I have no tears for my victims, I have no tears for myself, nor those bereaved by my actions. Okay, that feels pretty... I mean, we were having a bit of a back and forth about whether he was a psychopath earlier, right? I don't know, what does that say to you?
Yeah, I think it increases the likelihood, definitely, in terms of saying kind of the no tears for his victims. But interesting, yeah, no tears for himself, because as we were saying before, it does seem like he has felt like sadness and loneliness and a range of emotions kind of earlier, actually.
And that makes me doubt this whole sentence, because he does seem like a bit of a posturer, doesn't he? Especially in the way he writes. It's quite flowery, and he's obviously written this description of everything later. And I just wonder if this is like part myth building rather than actual truth.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Especially for himself. I don't think for his victims he feels anything, because, we've never seen evidence of that. But we know he feels bad for himself. We've seen that.
Yeah. And that's what's driven him to keep doing these things.
And so, after providing the police with all this evidence and a ton of nightmare fuel, Dennis Nilsen was officially charged with just 1 count of murder on February 11th, 1983, specifically the murder of Stephen Sinclair, since his fingerprints were the only ones they were able to positively recover from any of the remains. Makes me think that that's a strategy by the police rather than something else. Like, because if they charge him with that one murder and then there's like, oh, not enough evidence to keep him, can't they just charge him with another one of the murders and then another one? Though he's admitted it.
Yeah, I'm confused by that.
All right, well, maybe we'll learn a little bit more. The press were all over this story as it was unfolding. How something as depraved and disturbing as this could happen without anyone noticing was beyond belief. Nilsen was the invisible man of London, going wherever he pleased and killing however he wished. One of the first people spoken to about this was his mother, Elizabeth, and she had this to say, quoting, "I've tried to think what could have gone wrong. And I mean, why the people of London who worked with him, why they could not see something there before this. What the f***? You're his mum!"
blaming everyone.
It's like, why didn't his colleagues see this? I don't know. Maybe it's because you're a piece of shit, Elizabeth, who treated your son like garbage, who was also predisposed to being a psycho murderer. And then you're like, don't know what happens. Why didn't someone spot this? F*** you, Elizabeth, you piece of shit. Allegedly, in my opinion. It's gone on all this time. I believe if I'd done it at home, I would have seen something was wrong, because normally you couldn't live with a person unless you could see that there was something bothering him, because it's not the Dennis I knew that was doing this, somehow or other. Oh, bullshit. Come on. Oh, Matt fully agrees with me. Sure, lady, and perhaps if you treated him like you did your other kids and gave him a hug and a kiss once in a while, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. I kind of agree. Like, I don't think it's all the mother's fault. Like, I definitely think, in my uneducated opinion, that he probably had some predisposition to this. But she definitely pushed him in the right direction of, flushing people down the toilet.
Yeah, it definitely a factor in like how he felt about himself and other people and relationships. But it also is making me laugh because the phrase Matt just said of giving him a hug. Have you seen the like trend that's going around on social media at the moment of like probably needed a hug? And then says they did something else instead. I'm like, the Dennis Nilsen version.
What?
Probably needed a hug.
Oh God!
But just went on to be a mass murderer instead.
Oh my God. You probably just needed a hug. Hitler gets rejected from art school, probably just needs a hug.
To say this man was a pain in the ass while on remand is an understatement. Initially, he was very relaxed and resigned to his incarceration. The rule is innocent until proven guilty, and he knew that. But he's admitted it as well.
He's admitted it?
Yeah.
Is he changing his tune? Because he has to plead guilty in court, right? Because under interrogation, you can take it back later and say, like, I was manipulated, I wasn't in my right mind, blah, blah, blah. But we've had no indication that he's going to change his mind.
No.
He seems that he's going to plead guilty, no?
It's strange.
I still guess he's got to go to court and do that still. So he's still on remand or whatever until they have that like official.
Yeah. So the biggest thing that got under his skin, though, was the prison uniform he was forced to wear. He hadn't been found guilty after all, so why should he be forced to dress as a common inmate?
Because that's how it works.
Yeah, that's the process.
It's not like you're in jail, so you can it's own clothes in jail, and then when you go to prison, they put you in the jumpsuit. Like, no, you're in jail. They take your and they make you dress in black and white pajamas,
Stripes.
Or whatever they wear. Orange, I guess, is what they wear these days. Yeah.
He threatened to go completely naked at some point, and no one wanted to see that, so he wasn't allowed to leave his cell. This idiot even threw a chamber pot out of his cell in protest, hitting a few guards and earning him a nice warm spot in solitary. As more evidence was found and information uncovered, Nilsen's charges were soon elevated to 6 counts of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder, and his trial date and location were set. The police and the prosecutors knew that they had to nail this, and they were determined to put him away, so much so that they didn't work on anything else. To quote former Chief Inspector Peter J., "People often ask me how the country reacted to Nilsen, and you know what? I don't really know. I was so busy, I was so absorbed in this case, that for 9 months, I was having to eat, sleep and drink it. I had to focus on it because there was so much to it, and we had a big trial at the Old Bailey. And we got the world's press looking at us. We had to get it right. And you know what? I think we did get it right."
My thoughts are here, just because we were discussing about his pleading guilty and stuff. I think the police are just like locking this shit down. Because they're like, okay, he said he did it. But he could like say that. And then they go to court and he's like, nah, I changed my mind. Pleading not guilty. And the police are like, oh shit, we didn't build a case or whatever. Because you were going to plead guilty. So I reckon they're just like, let's get it all together. Let's make sure we got all our bases covered. Let's get this guy in prison ASAP.
Yeah. And I think that tends to happen, doesn't it? Like, the more horrifying a crime is as well, then kind of it when they can get a really solid case, I think it strengthens the sense of kind of justice around it all as well.
Yeah, I think so. And just like making sure they've got all the, identifying the victims as well, because he doesn't remember them. So maybe they can, it's before DNA, but maybe they can tie some threads together and give some people some closure.
Yeah. So Nilsen's trial began on October 24th, 1983 at the Old Bailey, and he would be represented by Ralph Heems.
I'd say so. Heems. So odd spelling.
Yeah. whose client also included Russell Bishop, who was convicted for committing the Babes in the Woods murders, George Ince, a convicted gangster, and several defendants from the Brinks Mat robbery case. The defence in question, diminished responsibility. So this has been brought up in a few episodes previously, but here's a quick refresher. So diminished responsibility basically means that although it's true that the defendant broke the law, they should not be held fully criminally liable for doing so, as their mental functions were considered to have been diminished or impaired when the crime took place. So this is interesting. Okay. For Matt, he's saying, yeah, I call bullshit in Nilsen's case, but I disagree. Like, I think, I don't see how you can do this and be deemed to kind of have, you know, in their language, all of their mental kind of functions or capacity kind of in order. Yeah, what do you think?
Well, it's been a long time since I studied criminal law, but if I remember correctly, diminished responsibility is a really high bar to pass. Like, you have to be so beyond yourself that it's essentially not you. And while I agree that there's some, you know, factors here, his mental capacity, his upbringing and all that stuff, I don't think that's going to cross the high threshold of diminished responsibility. It's such a big barrier to cross, because otherwise you'd be like, oh, why did you kill all these people? Well, I'm just mentally ill. I'm a psychopath. And they were in my way. That's not an excuse. That's not a defense.
No. I think the thing is, it becomes a wider discussion about the systems as well, because I think in some ways you wouldn't necessarily need the case of diminished responsibility so much if prisons were more kind of able to actually reform people and offer kind of therapy and support and intervention and rehabilitation. And I know some do, and some do a really good job of that, but I guess typically when you then go down the more forensic psychiatric hospital route, people have greater access to those things. And I think, you know, someone that has committed a crime like this, that's what they desperately need, even if they are going to spend the rest of their life in a facility of some kind. So I think it's
in this guy's case, is there like any level of therapy or medication that can, I mean, this seems so deep rooted and such a part of him that it's like, other than like zonking him out on some drugs or whatever, like, is this something that can be fixed?
Well, I think the first kind of part to that is trying to understand it. And I think when you can then understand, and that would take, I think, a lot of therapy, like to understand why is he doing this, then I think that would help you answer the question of like, okay, so is it possible to support him to live life in a different way, and whether he would ever have the opportunity to do that away from a prison or facility setting is another question. But I guess is he capable of change?
And I know it sounds bad, but is there a point? Like, he's going to go away for a whole life, right? He has to. Like, that's where this is going. He's not going to get 20 years and have the option of parole. So is there any point sending him somewhere and putting him through therapy and doing all this stuff when he is going to be in prison for the rest of his days anyway? And again, it sounds bad, but do we really care about his quality of life? I don't want him to get killed in prison. Maybe I slightly do, but the prevention of harm to him, I feels like a minimum bar that the state has to make. But his quality of life and the quality of his mental health, I just can't put a high priority on.
Yeah.
Because he's a monster.
That's the thing that's so hard, isn't it? Because, yeah, as you say, if he's never going to get out, then, okay, he's in prison, so we're keeping him safe and contained, so he's not going to commit these crimes again. He's not going to hurt anyone else, not going to be a danger to anyone else. But yeah, I don't really know what the answer is to that, of kind of what level of quality of life or investment in trying to improve quality of life does he need, does he deserve? I think it's so complicated.
If you did have the answer to this, you would be incredibly in demand to all justice systems around the world as countries battle with this
exactly
this complicated issue.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Matt was saying I call bullshit, but that's what they chose to go with, and Mr. Justice Croom Johnson allowed it. So from the beginning, Nilsen and his team did all they could to try and paint him as being mentally unwell. To be fair, it wasn't that difficult. We and the whole world at the time knew Matt's phrase was a nutter. But it was up to the defense to show it, put it into words, and have the judge and jury believe that he was mentally ill enough that he couldn't be held responsible for his evil deeds. His cold and relaxed demeanor certainly helped, as did his statement that he thought himself in the right. Hang on, sorry. Oh, he thought himself in the right when he strangled all
You're
those...
reading that right.
Oh, it literally doesn't make sense.
No, it does not make sense. And I don't think Matt has made an error. I think he's like, no, it was right. It was right. Yeah, when I strangled that 14-year-old and then flushed his body in parts down the toilet and then burnt the rest of his corpse in the garden, I'm making a strong argument that that was the right thing to do. It's like, no.
No, it really wasn't.
I think they're really playing there for the diminished responsibility. They're playing that card of just go in there and say that you thought what you were doing was right. I think he knows it's not. I think he's playing for defense.
Yeah, that would make sense. So within one of his prison journals, Nilsen stated it perfectly. When under pressure of work and extreme pain of social loneliness and utter misery, I am drawn compulsively to a means of temporary escape from reality. This is achieved by taking increased amounts of alcohol and plugging into stereo music, which mentally removes me to a high plane of ecstasy, joy, and tears. This is a totally emotional experience. I relive experiences from childhood to present, taking out the bad bits. When I take alcohol...
I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you. I don't like giving this guy and his stupid bullshit writing more airtime.
Okay.
Like, I don't care. Like, I don't know. Sometimes do you want to continue? I just feel like this feels like him writing this and us reading it is what this piece of shit wants. And really, like, is this relevant? It's like, okay, he's having a miserable time in prison where he's abusing alcohol and he's like listening to music and oh no, boo-hoo, he's so alone. He wants us to read this. He wants us to like feel something for him. I don't want to give him the airtime.
Okay.
You're my co-host. If you want to continue reading your section, you can. I just think this guy's such a piece of shit. I just don't want to give him any time.
But I'm happy not to continue
People will have a go at me
reading
in this. They'll be like, stop interrupting, Simon. Just let your sister read. And I'm just like, but he's such a piece of shit. He's such a piece of shit.
But it's really interesting that you say that, and it's obviously understandably evoking a strong emotional reaction in you. But when I read this part, like, this makes sense and is like what a lot of traumatized people do. So to be really clear, removing the murder and all of the disturbing things that he's done, just this paragraph, so just this kind of quote, I guess we're talking about like dissociation, kind of removal from reality, which is what happens for people that have been deeply traumatized. And I think no matter what we think about him, we can't deny that he probably is severely traumatized from various things that have happened in his life.
Yeah.
So there is this kind of detachment, this dissociation, this removal from reality. So that bit to me all makes sense, and I can understand that, and I think that might be very much true. But then it's the next part, isn't it, of like how and why does it go beyond the dissociation that we would see in so many people, this disconnection with reality, to okay, I'm gonna murder people and do terrible things to their body. It's that kind of gap, isn't it, that I can't get my head round.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think what particularly bothers me is his prison journals, which have obviously been published at some point, are just they're just written in a way that is designed to be like, it's so flowery. It's so like, oh, poor old me, blah, blah, blah. And I know. Okay, sorry, carry on reading it. I just don't like this guy.
I understand.
I don't like that I'm reading or hearing his words. Because, I don't know. Well, also, Mein Kampf is an interesting book. Not a good book. Not a thing, but it spoke to a horrible person's state of mind and what he thought. So, I don't, should that book be banned? Some countries, yes. Some countries, no. Do I personally think so? No, definitely not. I think history forgotten is history repeated. So, I don't know. Read it. I'm sorry.
It's a really good point. When I take alcohol, I see myself drawn along and moved out of my isolated prison flat. I bring with me people who are not always allowed to leave because I want them to share my experiences and high feeling. See, I don't necessarily agree with that last bit. I don't think.
Wait,
from
is he
what
talking
said
about
before,
the killing? You think he's talking about killing? Like,
Yeah.
I bring with me people who are not always allowed to leave, like, because he killed them?
I think so, but that doesn't really necessarily fit with what he had said earlier about why he kills
Ooh.
them. It is all a
Wait,
bit
why not?
confusing.
I thought that was kind of part of the reason. Like, he couldn't be alone, and he kind of thinks these people in a weird way are still, like, around.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, I agree with that part, but I don't know what he means by share my experience and high feeling. Well, I guess that was what he was doing because they were drinking together, they would listen to music. So yeah, maybe that makes sense.
I also think he likes killing them. I think he gets a high from killing them.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. Is that just, you think so as well? Because it seems like, I don't know, he definitely, given what he was doing to the bodies afterwards, it seems like something he gets off on.
Yeah, it seems, because he did, as we were saying earlier, he can show emotion, but we didn't ever hear him express emotion about the killing in terms of like any regret or sadness or kind of mixed feelings about it. Like, it would be interesting actually to hear more about his view on the killing.
Yeah. God, it's grim. Oh, okay. Safe to say a jury didn't buy any word of it, especially when the survivors started taking the stand, the principal of which was Paul Nobbs and Carl Stotter. They sat there in front of a packed courtroom and described every single thing that they experienced at the hands of Dennis Nilsen, recounting how they had barely escaped with their lives. And then when it came to DCIJ's testimony, the descriptions of the crime scenes, the disgusting state of the remains, and Nilsen's calm and matter-of-fact retelling when he was talking to the police was spine-chilling, and it shook the jury to their core. The defense tried to counter by bringing two different psychiatrists, each who were talking about different aspects of his dark behavior and personality. But by that time, it didn't matter anymore. On November 3rd, 1983, the jury retired to discuss the verdict, and the next day, their decision was made. Dennis Nilsen, the kindly killer, who was declared to be guilty on all 6 counts of murder and 1 account of attempted murder via majority vote and 1 count of attempted murder via unanimous vote. Mr. Justice Croom Johnson wasted no time in sentencing and threw the book at Nilsen with a life sentence and a recommendation that he should spend a minimum of 25 years in prison before he would even be considered for parole. Holy shit, I assumed a whole life order was going to come down the pipes for this guy. Wow, okay. This happened a long time ago. We'll see what happens, won't we? He never got the chance for parole because 10 years later his sentence was changed to a whole life tariff. Boom, there we go. By Home Secretary Michael Howard. He was never getting out of prison, and all I can say to that is thank God. Nilsen ended up spending his sentence in several prisons during his life. First, he was housed at HM Prison Wormwood Scrubs, and then he was transferred to HM Prison Parkhurst, HM Prison Wakefield, HM Prison Full Sutton, and HM Prison Whitemore. He's jumping around the place. Wonder why. Causing trouble or something, maybe. Getting naked, throwing poo at guards. Before he ended up back at Full Sutton permanently, he was allowed to read, write, and paint. He even composed some music and wrote letters to pen pals. As stated earlier, he wrote an autobiography, much of it via audio recordings, titled The History of a Drowning Boy, which was published in 2021, though it was heavily edited. Personally, I'd have preferred to seal him away in the deepest hole they could find, and that's just me. It thankfully wasn't all mundane and relaxing, as in December 1983, Nilsen was sliced across the face and chest with a razor by fellow inmate Albert Moffat. The cut required 89 stitches to fix. Good lord. That's a lot of stitches. And left a nasty scar. Say it with me, everybody. Oh no! Nilsen sadly lived for many years after that, though I'm happy to report that he's no longer stealing oxygen from more deserving persons. In May of 2018, he began complaining of severe stomach pains, and it got so bad that he had to be taken to York Hospital for examination. He was quickly diagnosed with a ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm, and his doctors elected to operate and try and save his life. Unfortunately, the surgery was a success. Fortunately, he didn't live long enough to enjoy it. He died of a blood clot as a complication of the surgery, and so 2 days later, on May the 12th, 2018, 72-year-old Dennis Nilsen died from a pulmonary embolism and a retroperitoneal hemorrhage. You know, I think I got the pronunciation on that right.
It sounded very professional.
Retroperitoneal. That sounds correct.
Yeah.
And nothing of value was lost. Wrap up. And there we have it, the end of our tale. A tale, for my money, one of the worst, most despicable serial murderers in the history of the UK. 12 boys and young men, perhaps even up to 15, all lured in with the promise of liquor and companionship. And sadly, all of them ended up dead at the hands of this perverted wanker. He wanted love and comfort. He wanted stability and inner peace. And in his sick mind, the only way he could get it, the only way he could hang on to it, was to kill and molest all of those he brought home with him. And all the while, looking like the most uninteresting chap in the world. That really is the scary part, isn't it? We've spoken about this on this channel before, and it's come up several times. Many people have a fixed idea of what a killer, a monster, looks like. And then there's Nilsen. Pasty white bloke, kind of tall, kind of lanky, pretty skinny, slightly sagging cheeks, brown hair, big glasses, utterly unremarkable. Even the press covering the story at the time noted how ordinary he looked, how disappointed they felt when he wasn't something more outwardly scary or impressive. I feel like everyone wants serial killers to look like that, the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, right? Who you see photos of him and you're like, he's killed people. Like, you don't even need to know anything about him and you're like, he's a murderer. Because you just look at his crazy face and you're like, oh. And which is bad for all people who are born with crazy faces naturally. But
That's completely innocent.
yeah, just... oh, God. You could pass him on the street, stand behind him at the supermarket, sit next to him at the movies, and you wouldn't think twice about him. Just another example that evil comes in all shapes and sizes, and most of them are mundane, looking just like you or me. Dennis Nilsen is one of the most sick, twisted characters we've had, and one of the most deplorable that I've had the misfortune of requesting. Oh, Matt, did you request this script? I assume this one is so bad I must have assigned it to you. This predatory necrophile left a stain on the UK's criminal history that just refuses to go away, and in the end, he was just a lonely, pathetic loser who didn't know how to love someone. He's one of those perfect examples of how a monster is made instead of being born. The death of his grandfather, the neglect of his mother. What neglect? She was perfect and did a wonderful job, as she said herself.
It's his colleague's fault.
Jesus Christ, Elizabeth, get your shit together. He's one of those perfect examples of how a monster is made instead of being born. I would say probably a bit of both. I think it's often a spectrum, right?
Yeah, I think it's such a combination.
Like, people might be predisposed to something.
Yeah, such a combination of kind of, as we say, like nature versus nurture.
The death of his grandfather, the neglect of his mother, his environment, and the stigma against homosexuals, which in turn led to his loneliness and his need to hide who he was for so long until it burst forth like a broken dam. It really makes you wonder if things might have been different if he'd been born today instead. Say what you will about the state of the world we live in today, but in comparison to yesteryear, it's a far more accepting place of gay folks and their desires. Had he simply received a measure of love and acceptance, perhaps he could have turned out better. Of course, this is the world we live in, and what ifs only get us so far. So now, as we exit the abyss yet again, let's take a moment to think of the victims. In these stories, it's always the killer, the monster, that gets all of the attention. So I'd like to leave off with the people who matter. Stephen Dean Holmes, Kenneth James Ockenden, Martin Brandon Duffy, William David Sutherland, Malcolm Stanley Barlow, John Peter Howlett, Archibald Graham Allen, Stephen Neil Sinclair, and of course, all the unknown victims that are now lost to history. Rest in peace, one and all, and know that when it was over at last, justice was indeed done. That's it. Cheery sort of stuff, isn't it? You know, you definitely don't, finish one of these episodes and I'll just be like, oh, I'll be thinking about this. And then you're like, I have to say, I think I said this during the show, it's a lot easier doing this with you. I already feel like lighter for it.
Oh, good. Oh, God. Yeah, it's heavy.
Some of these are really bad. Like, it's got to the point where like, oh, they just killed one person and it wasn't even that bad. I'm just like, won't even think about it again. But then you have like these pieces of shit. Have you heard of Pedro Lopez?
I have, but I can't remember anything about him.
He killed 200 boys, sexually assaulted and murdered them. And yeah, that one's, the audience will know. Like, I always bring this up and it's like, that one, like, I still think about that. How did you find this? Did you have fun?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to do it. How did you find it?
Cool. Yeah, no, it's nice. Like, it's honestly really nice to have someone to kind of like vent to. I said this already, but it's like, it's really nice. So we'll do it again.
Yeah, sounds good.
Lovely. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for co-hosting this with me. And you'll be back soon. I'll be back soon. And thanks for being here, everybody.
Bye, guys.